gold could satisfy. I know your name, I know your skin, and I know the way these things begin, but I don't know how I would live with myself. What I forgive of myself if you don't go. It won't do to dream of caramel, to think of cinnamon and long for you.
To call to order the December 2nd meeting of the Single Family Design Board. And we shall start with roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Brian Miller.
Here.
Jim Zimmerman.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to open up public comment now. Any member of the public may address the Single Family Design Board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction that is not scheduled for a public discussion before the board today. I see no one coming forward, so I'll close public comment and move on with approval of the minutes of the Single Family Design Board meeting of November 18th.
So moved.
Okay. We have a second. And if we can have any corrections or additions as I go through the list. 1701 La Vista del Oceano Drive. 2105 Anacapa Street. 438 Conejo Road. 1676 Franceschi Road. 860 Jimeno Road, 11 Via Alicia, and 7301 Chapala Street. Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Next, we have the consent calendar. I'd like a motion for consent minutes, November 25th.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The consent agenda for Monday, November 25th, 2013. Item A, 1121 Walnut Avenue, was continued 1 week to the full board. and this is the first item on today's full board agenda. Item B, 475 Braemar Ranch Lane was granted final approval as submitted. Item C, 2430 Calle Almonte was granted final approval as submitted. Item D, 2461 Calle Almonte was granted project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. Item E, 1650 Overlook Lane was continued 1 week to consent with comments. Items on consent were reviewed by Board Member Zimmerman and Board Member Pierce.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And next, the consent agenda for Monday, December 2nd. Motion? Motion to approve. Okay.
Second.
Second. Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Consent agenda for today, Monday, December 2nd, 2013. Item A, 376 Las Alturas Road is granted approval as submitted of the review after final with comments. Item B, 1110 Alameda Padre Serra is granted final approval as submitted with conditions. Item C, 1650 Overlook Lane was granted project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings with comments. Item D, 1112 Manitou Road was granted project design approval and final approval with conditions. Items on consent were reviewed by Board Members Zimmerman and Pierce.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Any announcements?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do have a few announcements. Board Member Bernstein will be late this afternoon.
All right.
Just wanted to remind the board, we sent an email out last week, but Planning Commission this week for December 5th, they will be reviewing the amendments to the Santa Barbara Municipal Code, Section 2887-170 for fences, screens, walls, and hedges. That was reviewed by staff and as a discussion item just fairly recently before the board. They're going to the Planning Commission on December 5th, and they will likely also be returning to Planning Commission on December 19th. I checked with Senior Planner Renee Brooke, and she said at this time they're not planning to come back before the Single Family Design Board. However, if you want to attend either of those Planning Commission hearings, you are welcome to attend. If not, you may submit your comments in email to Renee Brooke, the staff planner on the project.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have,
Yes.
have a question of the board and of staff. I don't know if my fellow board members want to have a discussion on the hedge ordinance at any time before it goes back either to Planning Commission or City Council, which I assume is going to happen later in the process. But I assume if we do want to have a discussion as board, then we have to request it to be put on an agenda as an item for discussion. So I didn't know, because we didn't get the opportunity to discuss it as a board, to be in front of this Wednesday's hearing, because there wasn't sufficient time. So that's just a question I posed to you all.
I remember we were able to put in input though
When she was here.
when she was here, and
But
it
now
seems
that-
to me
but-
that
But
most
now
of
the
that-
ordinance is written, so
Right.
that we want to make comments on the way that wording is now being suggested.
I see. I read through it.
I
How
read
do you
through
feel?
it too. It sounded good to me.
It sounded okay to you?
Sounded
Yeah, it sounded acceptable
like
to
what we had-
myself as well. Was there something particular you were?
No, I just
Concerned
want to pose the opportunity, because
Thank you.
we can't discuss it unless we put it on the agenda, which is
Oh,
what I
right,
found out.
right.
So if we want to discuss it, we need to let staff know so that we can put it on the agenda for discussion.
Yeah, how do you
But
feel?
if we don't, that's fine too.
Okay. I'm satisfied with it, the way that it was
So
written.
am I,
So,
actually.
and I guess the rest of the board is as well.
I'm not, there's a few issues
There's a
I'd like
few
to
issues,
talk about that
Okay.
that I think
Maybe
are
we-
relevant, but
All
I'm
right.
maybe the only
Well, we-
person.
At this time, then, we would recommend that if you could attend the Planning Commission hearing, and if not, then you could submit comments to Renee Brooke, and comments and questions to Renee Brooke, the staff planner.
As individual board members.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Moving on, just again would like to give the board and the public a knowledge, the reminder that the Next meeting, December 16th, will be the final meeting of this calendar year. The December 30th meeting has been canceled as it's in the middle of the holiday season there, and the city will be closed during that time. Also, again, just wanted to, I don't have to confirm at this time. I've already confirmed with a couple board members, but wanted to confirm that we have a quorum for the December 16th hearing. We need at least 4 individuals and 2 licensed members to attend. I've spoken to both board member Sweeney and Zimmerman, and they will be available. So just put that out there because I know that Jamie Pierce will be absent. Additionally, just wanted to announce a couple changes to today's full board agenda. If you look at the agenda today, we have 7 items. And item 3, 11B Alicia, has requested, as of this morning, to be reviewed a little later in the agenda. So we have moved forward item number 6, 711 Circle Drive. That will be reviewed in position number 3 at the approximate time of 3:50. I chose that item because that was not a noticed item and did not require public noticing, and there's no interested parties, so I don't think that change will affect the public. So then original item number 3, 11B Alicia, will be moved to item number 4, and then the remaining items will be reviewed in that remaining order. So that would be item number 5, would then be 438 Conejo Road, item number 6, 2400 Mount Calvary, and item number 7, 1562 Marquard Terrace.
Madam Chair, while you're checking in, I have a question to staff. I know in the last couple of meetings, we had at least 1, if not 2, projects where story poles were requested. We will get a notification of when those are up and when we're supposed to go look at them.
Yes, exactly. When the applicants put the story poles up, they are then required to contact me, and then I will advise the board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, we don't have any subcommittees. So we'll move right on to our first property on the agenda. It's 1121 Walnut Avenue. This is a review after final. This is review after final for alterations to railing materials, window alterations to eliminate the window mullions, and the addition of a water heater closet. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. Please introduce yourselves.
Good. We have been before the board a number of times. We have a project here that's under construction, and what we're here to review are some revisions that were made in the process of construction.
Okay.
And so we had originally proposed that the railing was a wood railing, and the owner has opted to a wrought iron railing instead that has the detail like this rather than what I'd shown on the elevation. Didn't quite get it coordinated there. Oh.
It's down below the tape.
There.
No,
Green lights.
So we're proposing to replace the wooden railing with wrought iron railing. The building has some heavy timber posts that the railings then run between, and some decorative corbels. And the railings happen several locations around the building. Also, what we are proposing is, in the process of construction, the windows, the owner installed a window that didn't have divided lights. So what we're proposing is a single light window condition, rather than what we had shown previously, which was the divided lights. And also, we have a condition that the water heater had previously cut into the room, was projecting into the room, and the owner has projected it out of the room onto under the porch area there, and
Okay.
so it's not into any setbacks, but projecting to the rear of the house.
Okay, we're just going to look at these elevations here in comparison.
Right. So we have the wooden railings, the divided lights. and the,
Madam Chair, I'd like to...
Yes, Mr. Zimmerman.
Yeah, this was brought before us last week, and showing no panes, and the approved drawings by the board had shown panes. So I felt uncomfortable approving something that the board had asked for. So
Okay. Thanks for that. All right, anything else with your presentations?
I think
Here's the minutes. Okay, so we're going to have Mr. Sweeney read that in.
Let's see. So it's those three items? Okay. So this was the action, was continued 1 week, full board with the following comments: provide window specifications and details for the revised windows, provide railing details, provide current site photographs. So I'm assuming that those were provided at some point. And that's where we got to the divided lights.
right. The railings that the owner has are look like that, and I've reflected that in my revised detail. And the windows, the Milgard window comes with a simulated light that's between the panes, which the owner had opted not to do. One reason is that these windows are painted, and how do you paint that encapsulated divided light? That's, I guess, one of the reasons that it seemed problematic. I suppose that one solution might be that we could apply a
But
grid.
I just think it cheapens it a little bit when you start doing that. And the location where it's at is facing the railroad tracks. You're only 50 feet from the railroad tracks.
Could you move that
Yeah.
toward your mouth, please?
50 feet from the railroad tracks. We already had 2 broken windows down there from kids. And replacing those windows that have lights in them, you have to order them, and it takes a while to replace them. So being the location especially, it's much more practical to go with the clear.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So you have the freeway and the railroad tracks right there.
Right, this is the last street that runs parallel to the freeway and the railroad
Understood,
tracks.
Okay, right now we'll move on to any public comment. Is there any letters?
Yeah, we received and acknowledged a letter from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Thank you. All right, and then we'll move to questions from the board.
So what's the status of the windows now?
They are installed as you see them without lights, divided lights.
Photographs as requested?
I didn't get photographs. No, we
I
brought a
was
sample.
by the site this morning. The windows are installed. The undersheeting of the stucco is installed. All of the stucco lath is installed. They're ready to put on a brown coat. That's the status. So this is all built. It's in.
I see. Any other questions?
It is difficult that we don't have a photograph, because I was on consent with Jim, and we felt it was a decision that would be difficult for us to make since the full board had approved it with the grids. So I guess I'm wondering,
I could arrange a photograph taken and sent over here, like ASAP. And you could hear somebody else, and then we could follow them. By that time, we'd have a photograph.
Well,
I don't think it's necessary.
it's not necessary.
I was out at the site this morning. It's all installed. It's in.
Okay. So we're hearing this after the fact.
Exactly.
Any comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think
Mr.
that
Zimmerman.
what they've done with the windows is they have recessed them back, which helps the looks of them.
This is the old plan. You want to look at
And-
what's happening, though? This is the old plan. I don't know if that's changed. It hasn't.
And was there a frame put around the windows, a plastic frame?
We can add frames to those windows and then wrap them with the, to have some
Jim, when I
definition.
went out there this morning, they're not built that way. They're
Yeah.
built flush
Okay.
to the wall.
Oh,
They're not built to those details. At least the ones I could see from the street.
So if we added the frames, then they would be recessed. It would give you that appearance, a 2x6 frame around it.
Under comments, I'm not going to vote in favor of allowing you to do this. Okay? You showed us a drawing with divided lights, you got it approved, and you come in here after it's all done and installed. It's not acceptable. I won't vote to approve a substitution. It's been built already.
well, that's a good point.
Okay?
Any other comments? How does everyone feel about this?
Disappointed.
Disappointed, to say the least. Right.
Well, I feel it is the purview of our board to uphold our process, so
I agree.
this did not follow the process.
It did not. Okay. Doesn't sound like you have any support from the board to have done what you did and then come in after the fact and look for approval from this board. We then looks as though we're going to stand by the original plans.
Okay, how about the wrought iron railings and the relocating the water heater?
Okay, how about those two points? How does
then
everybody
we'll
feel about
remove all the
putting the
windows.
water heater outside?
I was fine with that when they came through, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, how about the wrought iron railing?
Same.
Much
Same.
more authentic, Spanish,
How do
antique
you
railings.
feel, Mr. Sweeney, about that?
I'm basically not going to approve anything unless, with the exception of what we already approved.
Okay.
Could we add some grids to these?
No.
Retrofit a grid?
No, you need to put in real divided lights. That's what was approved.
Okay.
My decision.
Who wants to make
I move that we deny the applicant's request for all of the substitutions requested, water heater, railings, and the windows.
does that have any support? No. Okay, so that didn't fly. Let's try and formulate a new motion.
Okay. I move to support the railing and the water heater change, but not the windows.
So the windows will remain true to the plan number 1 here that was approved. All right, and all in favor? We've got a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. All right, so that's the new direction.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess
Michelle,
we'll
you
keep
want
one.
Yes, I need one.
And then here's the
Madam Chair, just to clarify, so
Yes.
you're requiring them to return the windows as was the original
Yes.
approval? Okay, thank you.
All right, 1576 La Vista del Oceano. This is final review. Final approval is requested. Project design approval was granted on June 17th, 2013.
Thank you. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
This was presented at the last meeting, so I'm just bringing it to review. This was the approved board at the last meeting.
Wow, that's a big thick guy, isn't it?
That's the whole set.
Yeah, it's upside down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Whoops. Ah, it's your little pointer there if you want to
I don't think so.
Could you introduce yourselves, please?
So, my name is Chris Manson-Hing. This is Ed Thibault, who is the owner of the project. Just to recap, this is a project that actually has received a final design approval in 2006. It was a 3-story building, 3,940 square feet. This owner bought the project with the specific intent to reduce the mass bulk and scale of the building to a 2-story building and reduce the size of it. The building has now been reduced down to 3,565 square feet, 2 stories. All of the existing development around remains the same, and it's just the design of the building which stays on the original footprint, because this building was designed in a 3 lots together with an access road that came off of the main road. So we are really tackling just the redesign of the building to reduce the mass bulk and scale. I don't know if Michelle wants to show the last drawings of what was approved on your board, which may help, and then.
And meanwhile, we're going to read
the last motion.
The last motion.
So project design approval with the findings, finding that the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria have been met, as stated in subsection 22.69.050 of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code, and continued indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. 1, the board had positive comments regarding the project's consistency in appearance, neighborhood compatibility with regard to size, bulk, and scale, and quality of architecture and materials. 2, the approach to the retaining wall and landscaping is appropriate. 3, the board appreciates the voluntary reduction in the size, bulk, and scale from the original approved project and finds the revised to design to be more compatible with the neighborhood. 4, show final color and alternative color of the trellis. 5, provide all final details. Motion carried on a 7-0 on a motion by Sweeney and Pierce.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, board members, just to clarify, I have these set that the board granted project design approval back in June. I don't believe it's necessary to review the original project that was approved in 2006, because the board has seen this a couple times and has granted this revised version a project design approval. They're here for final today.
All right.
All right. So essentially, we have kept true to the project. This is the design. This is the color board that we went through the last time. Stain color. We have not changed any of the finishes or colors in here. And I know you could pass
We have
if you wish. And all we've done is really assemble the drawings to get into final right now. So this set here would have all of our exterior details, which is so let's go through and this is the original. Penfield and Smith had some revisions to do, and you would see that they have revised this. When this last came before you, there were a 2-wall system in the back here, and then subsequently Penfield and Smith was able to determine that the slope of this was sufficient enough to just do away with one of them, and it became 1 wall in the back here, but everything else remains the same. There is an access that comes back to the side of the building here that goes into the back, an area to the back of the garage. On the previous, when you received preliminary, when we received the preliminary design approval, this section of the building, let's take a look at this section here. So yes, the section of the building here was designed in 2 ways, where there was a retaining wall here, and then there was another retaining wall back here, and then all of this was earth that came in the back here. And when the engineers looked at the engineering of this, they realized that this foundation would have to go down to this area anyway, because if it stayed high, the 45-degree forces would then impact this one. So this went down this way, just thereby causing a lot of additional area in the back here to come into play. And then what you'll see here is that we've done. Let's go to. What we did use. So the original building that you saw when we got preliminary, that dash line represents where the basement was when you last saw it. And so since this wall from this here had to go all the way down, this is space that then became into play. And then what we've done is that we've looked at all the calculations again to make sure that we don't cross the 85% FAR. And the only space in the back here that we have to take out is this little area in the back here. So we'll just fill that out so that that's not being used. But with all of that space that's added, we're under 85%. We're under the 84.98%. Nothing else on the exterior has changed. Everything exactly looks the same. This just gets dug into the earth a little bit more. And this was reviewed with Michelle and staff at a much earlier stage when this happened. So they are aware of this. So just want to let you know that if you pick that up in the drawings, that will prove that that's what happened. Yeah. So these are Penfield and Smith's drawings. Again, for the site work, there's a lot of drainage stuff that had to happen here. So that's all part of it. That's just has to be part of the documents. This site plan just shows how it's located. All of this work would be taken up by Penfield and Smith, and they will handle that site work. So here's the building. If anything has changed, really, the shape outside remains identical. Entrances, doors are all in place in the same spot. This is that door that comes into the basement here at this side. Some internals have changed where the stairway was a more central stairway right up this way. And for efficiency's sake and for them, the owners thinking that this is just a better revision for them, we had that stair redesigned into this area. We have the garage, there's a basement, utility closets, the elevator, mechanical room. There's a bathroom here, laundry. This is more of a common area that can be used in many areas. And this is a bedroom suite downstairs, as upstairs can only hold 2 bedrooms then. Yeah. So here's the upstairs area, master bedroom suite, bathroom, walk-in closet. Here's the second bedroom, their bathroom, elevator, powder room. Kitchen, living room, open staircase, patio deck here, patio deck out here. Trellis that was on the front of the lower areas is still there. And over there, over this still remains, as you'll see in the roof plan. That's the trellis over the upper, that's the trellis over the lower one. The detail and sizes are here. 2-piece red clay tile roof, just the same. We've detailed this a little better so that this little solar tube that's right here is as hidden as possible. Has a red clay tile capping to it. This area here just shows where if there were solar panels or when they were put in, that's the area that it would fit into. And I think the built green requirements having us to require 300 square feet of where you would locate it. We think that having it here between these two slightly raised areas would be the best so that it's not as conspicuous to the public. Details of the drawings, we now get more of the metalwork that's here, and later in the drawing you'll see the metalwork. We have the columns, and we've brought you surface material of the columns, which is a Veristone. It's actually limestone powder or dust that is epoxied together, and it's a true limestone in that if you were to shave this, it looks exactly the same. until it gets to this material, which is the core. So that's what these columns here will be. We have metal hand railings, and you'll see detailed. We have changed the design of the garage doors. In the previous incarnation, we had this divided into little rectangular areas. And the more and more we looked at the building, we found that we just have so many of these rectangular areas, it just became a little too much. It was overdone. So what the building was calling for then is, because we have all these nice setting backs and the recessed areas that would create shadows, we decided to go with something a lot simpler. And that allows this to still be nice and active and not have it overpowered by rectangles. Too many rectangles. We have this detailed out in a sheet at the end, and you'll see. So here, no changes, all of our rectangles. General sections. Things that we still have to get into the building department are things like the insulation values. We have not noted that around here yet. It's all set up. Sections, reflected ceiling plan. Reflected ceiling plans, layout of our roof rafters, all heavy timbers. This is a high-fire area. One might not think that's so close to the ocean, but above Cliff Drive, there's an area up there that's all still high-fire area, and so we have to comply. So we have no E-vents. Everything is the O'Hagan vents on top of the roof then. So here's our wrought iron divisions and layouts. I'll just go slowly here in case you want to just delve over it. But it's very simple. It's not ornate in any way. It's actually meant to be more of a simplified version. Door and window schedule. There's some notes we'd added here, but the divisions are there. This is our typical window details here, where we're using this same material and a very heavy exterior sill stone. Plastic comes up to it. And at the deep window at the master bedroom, we have a very deep one to the front of the building. I don't know if you recall that in the master suite, there's a very deep set window in their suite. And that's your average. That's that bigger one. And here's your typical plan section then. So the bullnose edges, steel frame windows. Corbel shape at the garage. This is just some metalwork detailing up at the master bedroom suite where it turns. Here is your typical entry glazing detail, where dashed in the background is where that column is. And so our steel work would come through here, and that's where that's where the column would be located. This would be right in the middle. I don't know if we have we have a tile that on the inside, and we're proposing to have the same tile actually go through on the exterior at the ground floor. Upstairs we have hardwood, and we have tile on the exterior decks upstairs. I think here is our garage door, and we have the stonework, or the pavers actually, the pavers in gravel goes right through this foundation work here, so that it looks right up to underneath the garage door, so that we don't get concrete up to here and we get pavers up to here. We want the pavers to go all the way right through to the garage door. Our roof details, this is the O'Hagan detailing, just to show you how the vents work. But here's our typical eave, where we have the heavy timbers, T&G underneath, and we have the clay tile. We have mortar at the ends of the clay tile, so to stop the birds from nesting in there. Our typical details where we have a valley. This is the ridge member here, And we're introducing here where this has very shallow scallops, we're introducing where this turns right in here. So whereas in some other buildings of this you might have a wood member here, we're choosing actually to have this member all in plaster run down the side. And we actually saw that in one of the historic adobes in downtown, and I quite liked it, and I thought it was appropriate to this building, so I used that here. This is the chimney. Well, here is just to show you the scaling and size of where that solar tube is, and here is the cap at the solar tube, so that it screens as much of it as possible, and it's just a round disc. What we've actually found out, in here, we're actually going to have where this ceiling screen here can lift up, and access to the roof gets in from this area here. So you actually go up into the skylight, and then you get into the roof this way, which is it works pretty nice, actually. Here's our chimney. We didn't get it into CAD, but I think the detailing is all there. We will put that in CAD, but even if we didn't, I think we're good to build that. I think it's even better than a CAD. And we have your typical spark arrestor that would happen over the already made metal tubes, and then the X's here, which are done in metal, will have another mesh behind here, just so that the birds don't go in there to nest in this area. But this is what you'll actually see is the nice big X's, and so that should be a nice little detail. Again, so we have the little mortar in here. Some typical details, really, tiling. These are just the sections through the building to show how the membranes work, the floor membranes. Very typical details here. And then we start breaking it down for the contractor into the column detailing. These columns are a little bit more modern, where they're very straight, they're not tapered. Again, it's this material. This is just showing how the metalwork guy will have to make the metal that when it comes in close to when the glazing comes in to the side of the column. Fireplace drawings on the interior. Our pocket door detailing, shower tiling situations, structural drawings. We have electrical here, and that's it. And then these drawings fit then within the previously approved set of drawings for those whole 3 houses, but then this will just replace that one house design.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just do that around here.
Things to be done.
I think we covered. I think we covered all of those. No?
There it is.
Okay. I think yeah, color alternative for the trellis. Did we do that?
We have
The final details.
Yeah, let's see. On the alternative, we had that. I think it's noted on our drawings. And let's see. Hang on a second here. Oh, good. Yep. Sorry. This is for you, actually. So here is. Oh, you have one. Okay. So I thought so. So where's a burnt hickory is this color here that we're going to use, which is a semi-solid. That would be an alternative to this one. And the only reason why we asked for an alternative is because this is a Cabot stain and one of the high-end quality products. We wanted to be able to use one of these products instead of maybe this one. But we have the actual here, because this does not print very well, we have the actual board. I mean, this is the more... So that's burnt hickory here, and that's the one that, that's what that is supposed to be. Now, I remember at one time when we had the meeting before, one member on the board was looking for a lighter color. And the reason why we're picking one of these darker colors is that all the houses on the mesa are experiencing this mildew that comes after so many years unless you really wash your house regularly and repaint it. So all of the lighter woods that people are choosing out there end up getting this dark mildew. So they're turning to doing these darker colors more often just because of this dark mildew that's building up. Yeah.
Okay. All right then. I'd like to open up public comment. If there's anyone who'd like to step forward about this project and fill out a slip. I see no one. Any letters?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We did receive a letter to acknowledge from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Thank you. Okay, then we go to questions from the board.
Madam Chair, I just have just a couple quick questions. So the garage doors are tongue and groove?
Tongue and groove, yes.
And then on the eave detail on the tile, roof tile, did you say you had bird stops? No.
Yes, on the eave tile, yeah, we put mortar inside of the little arches, not bird stops, to stop the birds from
it's
nesting.
mortar, not the sole bird stop. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's mortar.
And then the vertical column seams on your columns,
Yes.
they're going to turn around and go to the back or to the front?
No, they're going to be at the side. They're
gonna
not
go
to
to
the
the
front. They're not to this front. Yeah, we've had this.
That's it. Yeah. Run down
Classic.
that issue before and get up there and find their not turn right.
It's a classic.
Okay.
It's a classic.
And then on the solar tube, you chose to do because now you've created this little flat area.
Yes.
Because when you brought it in the first time, I kept thinking you were going to turn the solar tube at the angle of the roof.
Uh-huh.
So now you've created this little flat area for the
Yes.
solar tube. You
Yeah.
chose to do that versus just doing a 2x2 skylight?
Yeah, we want to. I personally have an issue when I live on a hill on a mesa, and we look down on other roofs on a mesa. And one of the things that I do not like is I do not like large flat skylights in the night. And when I look down, everything's dark, and I see these big rectangular square
They're lit
pieces
up.
of light. And so, personally, for me, I would rather have a small one that allows a lot of light to come in with this small aperture, so that in the night, it does not absorb the light coming from the bottom as much, So it's just a design thing for me. I just rather have that aperture smaller, so people high up
Okay.
don't have
That's
this.
why I was asking the question.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just last thing, which has nothing to do with the house, but we had a whole group of your neighbors in here a couple of meetings ago about the street lights on your street. Is that a different street? Different street.
Same street, different project.
Yeah, different projects, but they were in here concerned about the street lights on that street. No issue?
I don't know what that's about.
All right, that's it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question about the O'Hagan vents.
Yes.
Do you have exposed decking inside, open beams and decking? Or is
No,
it-
we actually have all flat ceilings.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And
Okay, so you have an attic space.
we do, and it's only vented by the O'Hagan vents, and
And then on your columns, are those a two-piece?
two-piece columns.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll have a seam at the sides. We've had encountered this before, and we've dealt with this on other projects. And these guys at Veristone, they have done a lot of tests for us on the color of that joint and trying to hide it. And you can't absolutely hide it, but they have done a very good job of making it very difficult to see unless you get right
Yeah.
up there close.
That's it.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Lisa.
Yes, do you have a landscape plan?
The landscape is what has already been approved on the project from way back, so we didn't trouble that. Seeing as the footprint was exactly the same and the driveway is exactly the same cut, we didn't mess with that at all.
Thank you. No other questions.
Okay.
Okay. Comments?
Madam Chair, board members, may I just follow up with the applicant regarding board member Sweeney's comment? I would just recommend that you do check in with Public Works, because what that was involving was that the whole subdivision
Right.
was putting in, now going ahead and starting to put in the streetlights, and some of the neighbors were not particularly in favor of the streetlights that they are putting in.
I see.
So I would just recommend that you check in with Public Works Department, see if they are planning to put those on in front of your street,
Oh.
and maybe check in with, I think
Okay.
it's Mark Wild in Public Works who's trying to resolve that issue.
Thanks very much.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Jim.
I'd like to make a motion for project design approval that,
Actually, final approval. We already gave it
Final
project design.
final approval,
Yeah.
that it has consistency and
You don't have to
appearance.
do that, that's only for...
It's already done? Okay,
So you just do final approval
yeah.
unless you have comments.
Okay. As submitted, final approval as submitted?
As submitted.
As submitted.
Right.
Okay, great. We have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, Jamie seconded first. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, wonderful.
Thank you very much.
On your way.
Thank you.
Yes. And we have this, I don't think we need this one, right?
So it goes with this.
This together.
This is yours.
Yeah.
Michelle, do you want to keep this?
Yeah.
Okay. You got it. You want one or more?
It's a monster. Okay, and here's the color for it, too.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, where are we?
Can you keep this and that one?
Sure.
This.
Three is delayed.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so now we go to number 6, 711 Circle Drive, which has been moved forward in the agenda. And this is project design review. Project design approval is requested. The project was last reviewed on November 18th, 2015. Oh, sorry, reading the wrong one. Sorry, let's see, on this next page here. What we're looking for is concept review continued, referred from consent review on November 18th, 2013. It's comments only. Project requires environmental assessment.
Okay.
And read the minutes.
Yeah, it's comments only, was continued 2 weeks. One is continued full board with the following comments. Discuss the retention area within the public right-of-way with public works staff as an encroachment permit may be required. 2, provide additional photographs including a panoramic view of the street with both adjacent single-family residents. 3, provide additional elevation details. And that was it. Madam Chair, I think Jamie and I were on review of this one. It initially came because staff felt there was just some minor remodels to the outside, but as we looked at it, it fairly, in our view, was fairly significant. And so we were reluctant to just review it at consent calendar. We thought the whole board should look at it.
Okay. All right, and can you introduce yourself, sir?
Hello, I'm John Forbin.
And presentation.
Okay, well, I'd like to start with the existing here. I'll present this to you. This is the 4 elevations of the existing house, north, south, east, and west, with the east would be the facade or the front of the house as it faces the street. And right now there's an illegal. This is a shadow of a trellis that's illegal, and there's a skylight over the living room that's illegal. It's going to be removed. Okay, what we're proposing to do here is we're going to rework the roof. The present roof was only originally framed for a shingle or shake type roof, and it's needs to be reconstructed in order to support a heavier roof, which is good for a fire area. So we are going to remove the roof framing, and reconstruct the roof, lift up the ceilings, vault the ceilings, and put in a Mission two-piece tile roof. So the house style is changing from what it is now to a more Mediterranean Spanish style of let's see. The location of the house is up in the vicinity of Westmont. This tract of Circle Drive was put in as a modest homes, more or less service industry homes for the area, for Westmont and the adjacent area. So that's kind of the character of the homes. In the site plan, what we've done is we've hired a hydrologist, and also a geologist did a pre-survey before we even started the plans, and wrote up a 3-page report on the more or less on the geological condition of the property. This is basically what we're working on at this point in time right now, is the pad that was cut into the characteristically this sits on kind of a hog back, and there's a 60-foot drop from here down to the bank of the stream. So this is a very sensitive area here, and all the water is being directed to the front of the property, and we're proposing to construct a rain garden and 6 inches of gravel underneath the paved areas, patio and driveway, which should handle the water from the roof and any hard surfaces. And we have the support of that from the hydrologist. These are the designated fire zones. We had the fire inspector out in April to survey and make assessments and recommendations for pruning or maintenance of a safe fire environment. And flipping over. This is some of the information that supports the hydrology, is the flow of the water from the roof to the different areas for percolation into the soil. It requires having under drains on both sides of the house. Particularly on this side of the house, we're going to put in a French drain that will also be collected in the front of the house. Maybe at this point I should pull out the drawings, and so you get an idea or a feel for what the street looks like. This is the west side of the street, and this is the house that's south of 7-Eleven. And so as you move up the street, this is the house itself, and then further up the street, this shows the neighbor's house. It's Mediterranean style. And then across the moving from top would be coming down the street, I believe it is. I'm looking at it upside down. So, so this is the character of the immediate houses around the area that we're dealing with. We propose to replace the driveway because we're digging it all up and putting 6 inches of gravel in it and pouring a 4-inch slab on top of that. We're proposing to install, this material is from Croatia. It was taken by the owner of that property. She liked the material. It's pretty close to what they want. It maybe perhaps has a little more coloration, might be a little different than what's available in California or Arizona but for flagstone, but it's somewhat of the quality that they would like to have on their driveway. Pass that around. Okay, so that covers the hydrology, and I talked to the roads department and the water, the specific guy that deals with the water issues said that there's no problem with having plants in the right-of-way, but what we propose to do is to keep the rain garden as a permanent structure behind this wall, and then this will be planted, but it won't be actually a part of the rain garden. So that's become, I think, a non-issue. And the section indicates the material underneath the patio and the driveway for drainage and percolation onto site. Is there any questions about that? Or?
So the property line is right there?
Yes.
I think we get into questions.
Yeah.
Like,
In a minute.
overall, okay, all right.
Yeah,
All right,
you
great.
just keep presenting them and we'll open
Okay.
questions afterwards.
This is the existing floor plan and demolition plan, and as you can see, it's a fairly extensive demolition. There's quite a few walls being changed and removed. Basically, it's a pretty good floor plan. It was this area was kind of problematical for us, and having the furnace here, we didn't like that too much. The fireplace is going to be removed, and we're going to put a lightweight heat-later unit in. We really struggled with having the bathroom right next to the front door for a long time. So those issues we hope are resolved in what we're proposing in terms of floor usage. Is we moved the bathroom in between the den, which this is an office den now. We purposed the bathroom into an office space, and it made for a more symmetrical and a little nicer facade on the house, and also it's a more pleasant place, I think, to have that usage. And this is a bedroom is a guest bedroom that stays the same. In order to do this, we had to push the master bedroom out 2 feet in the back. So this black line indicates the additions right here. These are basically bookshelves with a very deep window in the front, and these walls are built out in the front to accommodate a deeper inset window that's more in the Spanish style. And on the front of the garage, we were removing that kind of eyebrow thing they have going across the windows, and we're putting in 3 smaller arched windows in the front that are set back in, and to give it a little more depth and shadow and relief. And this closet was added to extend the living space for storage, and we pushed out this bathroom to gain a walk-in shower, and this area has become the dining room. And the kitchen, we bumped out this window here with a bay window. And we moved the heater into it. There's a loft that goes halfway across the garage. We're putting the heater up in the loft, and the water heater will go in the service closet. It'll be an on-demand water heater. Refrigerator sits right here, right there. And so they're pretty happy with the floor plan. We like the way it works. Seems to be pretty flexible.
Sir, could you speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Directly?
Yes. I'm sorry.
No.
Take that, push it to it.
Yeah, you just move around there. Okay. Anything else?
Getting ready for prime time here. I think that covers the floor plan. If you notice from the drawings, you don't see very much of the south side elevation here, but we're still trying to maintain a look of relief on the windows. So we're proposing to fur out the wall along the south side and inset the windows so the stucco returns around at least, an 1 3/4 inches or something of that sort to give it a little bit of a recess. And I think the same thing will happen in the dining room with this window here, is that we want the window to be a little bit inset into the wall so it has a more Spanish Mediterranean look to it. So what's new here is we've added a pergola. We took out the old chimney and put in a chimney that's a little bit more in keeping with the style of the house. And we added the bay window in the back. And we're changing all the windows and doors. All the windows are Marvin windows that are aluminum clad, dark bronze. I think I have a sheet with me here to cover the exterior. This is the dark bronze for the aluminum cladding. This would be the trim color for all the eaves, rafters, and any trim that's on the outside. This stain is a semi-solid stain for the garage door, which is redwood, tongue and groove redwood. And the front door it's a mahogany style front door. Instead of having just a speakeasy type setup here, they want to bring more light into that hallway and open up this window. So it's going to mean, and then they want some iron work over it, some wrought iron. It's not too heavy or too ornamental, but somewhat delicate, but also something that would look like it would function as a barrier. This is the roofing material. There's old world roof, 3 different tones, or 2. If we're still up in the air about whether to add the 3rd tone. Pending comments from the board, I suppose. I didn't include the gutters on here, but the gutters are half-round aluminum gutters that have the same bronze look to them. This is the exterior light, and this would be the hardware with, instead of this handle, I think we would go with this handle here. And this is the rain barrel that goes over on I was informed that the location of the rain barrel needs to change. It needs to move around the corner to the back of the house because it's in the right of way at this point in time. So we're willing to move it. And, I can pass these over to the other side. So that takes care of the north and south elevations. And actually, let me make one more. This elevation is, you kind of look down on this. I'm upside down here, so you kind of look down on, as you're driving down the street, as you're coming down Circle Drive, you kind of look from kind of a perspective. It's kind of an isometric on that corner of the building. There will be a fig tree and an olive tree. They won't be very big for a while, so this elevation does come into view. So we want to keep it as clean as we can. The east side faces the street, and as I said, we added the pergola. We put in a dormer over the front door. We played around with these window sizes. We're trying to keep this whole area kind of balanced and in balance also with the size of this window here, which they really liked the idea of bringing all that morning light into that room. So that it also ventilates. This is a push or a pull-in window. It pulls in from the top and ventilates. And we're also adding more insulation on the south wall. By furring it out, it'll make it less. It'll pick up less heat gain in the summertime. The gates are wrought iron on both sides. They're wrought iron gates. Pretty simple design. We might add a couple S's to them or something, but maybe not. On the back elevation, which faces the canyon, it's also visible from, if you go over to the other side of the canyon, there's a couple houses up there that are look down on this elevation, so it is visible. So we were trying to keep that in mind when we designed and try to maintain the continuity of the design on the back side of the house.
We need to speed it up a little bit here because it's taking a little too long, but we'll take a look at this planting now. You're pretty much redoing the entire landscape, it looks like.
Yeah, there's mostly weeds there now. If you when you look at the photographs, you can see that they had this was all grassy area before, and it's we're eliminating the grass.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there's one more page.
One more page?
Yep. This is a little more detail showing what the posts look like in the front coming up. This is the base of the post here. This shows the detail on the end of the beams coming out. And then these are the rafter tails off of the roof there. And this is the plan view of the cupola, with showing the rafter framing and the walls.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to invite the public to comment if there's anyone in the audience who'd like to step forward and speak about this project. It doesn't look like there is, so I'll close public comment unless we have a letter. Okay. And now we move to comments from the board, or questions, excuse me, from the board. Yes, and Jamie?
Do you have any cut sheets for the lighting that you have proposed on the landscape?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I can get.
Board members, Madam Chair, board members, just wanted to follow up. This is for comments only today. They do still have pending environmental review that needs to be completed.
Okay.
They will have to do a archaeological letter report prior to this project being granted project design approval.
Okay, thank you. All right, then.
Madam
Yes,
Chair.
Jim?
Did you, being that you have a nice mission tile roof, two-piece, did you consider maybe using pane windows to get more of a Mediterranean feel? Not the doors, but just the windows.
You mean dividing the windows? You mean? We talked about it, and the owners preferred to have them undivided for views. But that's the way we left it.
I noticed that you have a raised floor, and the drainage, from what you have shown us, is a real problem in that area. Did you provide something to take care of that, the mold underneath the floor? Any type of waterproofing system?
Yes, we're waterproofing and putting in a French drain along a foundation drain, and we're also improving the. If you go back to the floor plan, what I did was I added. Right now, you get to the bot underneath the floors through the closets, and what I did is I put an underfloor access right here, and then another one on the south side, and those are also act as better ventilation, and I think that should take care of it.
Lisa?
Yes, Madam Chair. On your landscape plan, we need to have a scale on it. And,
Okay.
that's all.
It says in the box, on the end, it's 1/8 of an inch to a foot.
Yeah, there is a scale on here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's just in a different place than we're used to seeing it, I guess. Any other questions? Okay, comments?
Wait, Madam Chair,
Oh,
I do.
yes.
I just wanted to see if this light
All
was
right,
coming
Brittany.
on. I have a couple of questions. I think they're really short answers, so maybe I can just ask you and we could go
Sure.
quickly. What is the new height? And the old height?
I think it's the old height was 12 feet 8 inches, and the new height,
17?
yeah, is
To the top of the
if
cupola?
you on top of the
50.
cupola, it's about.
Oh.
I don't think it's 17. I think it's.
Oh, right. Right, 15.
15 feet to
15.
the top of the cupola.
15
To the
feet
top,
sounds
to the
right.
highest
Yeah.
point? Okay.
Yeah.
And
And actually, the chimney is a little bit
Little
higher
taller
than the
than that.
cupola, but I don't know if that's exempt or not.
okay, and can you explain just briefly, what do you mean by the isometric view?
I guess I just will break it down to perspective, which means that as you're coming down the road, you sort of see the top of the house and you see the side of the house as you're coming down the
Okay,
road.
I get
Because
that.
the elevation of the
Uh-huh.
road is so much higher than the house, as you're sitting in the car, the roof is down at a lower point, so you kind of see over trees and fences and hedges and things like that.
Okay, and the type of driveway that you were talking about from Europe, and so you're putting the concrete
it's basically
thing under?
flagstone. It's
Yeah.
flagstone, yeah.
Is that a permeable type driveway?
There's joints in it. This one's not. This is an example of the material that Verna liked, that she wanted on the driveway.
Look that you liked.
And yeah, these are joints. This blue line indicates joints that breaks up these large areas, and it makes it so the water flows off into these joints and down into the gravel underneath the driveway, and then it percolates into the soil.
Okay, thank you, that's it.
So my question, if I may, is then, so there's going to be slab underneath this?
Correct,
though.
yeah.
So this will be the break, and these will be individual slabs, is that what you're
They
saying?
they will be tied with epoxy resin rebar. So they won't become
Shift as
uneven
much.
and shift to the point where they would be a walking hazard.
I see. Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? We'll move on to comments.
Well, from an architectural perspective, I don't know, I seem to like the east side of the house, which is the entry, the most. And then it starts to seem to get complicated on the other sides. And I'm just curious what the architects think.
Want to comment, Jeff? Go first.
Well, I have a question about the entrance. You have the two beams coming out, and that dies into the roof itself. Does that arch window actually?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
This arch window here, does that
That's
actually?
inset. It's
Back in the plane
yeah.
of the door.
Can I go to another drawing here? And I did another drawing on that, and it's actually
It's back there.
I think it's the last sheet.
Yeah, right there.
Is how we're talking about this area. Okay, go ahead.
Is that viewed from inside the house?
Yes.
Or-
What this piece represents here is this is basically just a very small curtain wall of plaster in between these beams that goes up to the plank and beam ceiling here, and so this window basically in this area goes all the way back. It would be pretty heavily shadowed because it sits back. When they built these houses, they set the front doors in about 4 feet, and I asked the owners if they would like to move the door forward, and they kind of like having that porch area, and they want to have a mosaic on the floor, and it
On your,
sort of works.
you have a small bay window coming out with,
Yeah,
what room, is that in your kitchen?
that's the kitchen sink.
Oh, okay.
So if you're standing at the kitchen sink, you're looking out at the canyon through this window,
Yeah.
and this is a glass door that goes into the dining room area. And then all of these doors open up for the view. So
That's it.
it's kind of a hybrid. I mean, it's not traditional Spanish. It's 2014, and it's Mediterranean style with modern amenities added.
Any comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mrs. Finnegan.
I just saw something here. I didn't listen. What's that right there?
It's a sink.
That's a sink down at the floor or up at the wall? Where is that on the elevations?
It may not have made it to the elevations.
Is that it?
Is that it?
That's it, I think, yeah. No, that's not it. It would be over here.
It's a gas meter.
Yeah, it's right. I think it's right here.
Okay.
It didn't.
So-
It didn't make it to the elevation drawing.
So if you, okay, so you got a porch. I'm looking at, I have trouble with the front end of this piece here. The portions really bother me. I'm assuming this goes into some kind of higher ceiling in the entry hallway, so that you actually can see out that window, this little half window up here.
Yes.
I think I can understand their desire to have a porch out here and they want something on the floor or whatever. But I think if you're going to do that, you need to make this a little bit more roomy, or bring the door forward and then bring the porch forward, bring this canopy out forward. I'm not necessarily thinking these are the most appropriate windows. Perhaps a single casement window would work better here than two small double casements.
Okay.
I'm not certain that how you treated this really works. It doesn't look right. There's something here that just it looks awkward. This window, I kind of understand what you're doing, but again, the proportions, the window's taking up most of the wall. It's like the window wants to be smaller in this opening. And I think I shared with you a consent calendar. This looks a little bit better, but my sense is these windows proportionally need to drop a little bit. I'm not too certain that this cupola is as successful as it needs to be. I'm not quite sure why other than you're venting I think the garage at this point on the cupola. So
No, it's venting the house.
that's how it's treated is awkward. I think that I understand what you're trying to do here, but it might work better if you didn't do this element on the bottom that you're proposing. Maybe it needs to drop down to the ground. I don't know if that fountain's inset into the wall or not. So I'm not sure how that works.
It just hangs on the wall.
Yeah, that's probably not a big
Look at
deal.
the elevations now.
Oops. So I've got. I also have some concern about the size of these windows to this wall. I'm not really sure what that's all about. I know what that's about. We asked what that's about.
This is a window in the bathroom.
Right.
By the shower.
I'm just not certain that's the appropriate way to solve that issue of getting up the window. And given what you're trying to do with the style, I'm not certain that these garage doors really do it. Maybe those ought to be a different kind of garage door to meet with the style that you're proposing. So at this point, I've got some big concerns about what the outside looks like. That's my comments.
Okay, I'd like to comment too. I have to agree with my colleague, Mr. Sweeney here. It looks too much as though too many different elements were thrown together here without a thought toward an individual style. These are very modern. There's too many different shapes of windows, in my opinion. There's just it doesn't seem to meet our guidelines as far as what contemporary Spanish would look like. Again, see just too many different shapes and sizes here. Why is this arched and this one straight? And then here's this. So many different elements that it doesn't read in any particular style at this point. So I think that might be something for a little more study to try to make it a more homogeneous design. Also, I really have some reservations about the driveway system that you're thinking of doing. It doesn't really become permeable when you set all that onto a slab. I just have never seen anything like this done before. I don't know how that would possibly work. so I'm having some reservations about your paving idea as well. Well, this is comments only, so I suppose we should formulate some kind of a motion that will give this gentleman some
Madam
direction.
Chair, could I
Yes.
bring up? That cupola could really be a nice design element. I know that you're using it for ventilation, but the screen could be behind maybe some tile, some decorative tile maybe. It looks, maybe increase the slope a little bit and just hide that screen behind some nice tile work or something. I think could be a nice design element there.
You reminded me too that also the entry here, this doesn't seem Spanish to me at all. It seems more like Cape Cod-y in a way. That was another thing I didn't mention the first time, that somehow that loses that Spanish touch in the entry. Any other comments? Can someone...
I'll
Would someone like
attempt
to
a
attempt
motion,
a-
and you
a
guys can
motion?
help chime in.
Okay.
So this is comments only. Return to the full board. I assume in 2 weeks or indefinitely? Indefinitely? That'll give you some flexibility.
I think I'm going to need more than 2 weeks.
Okay, so
for
indefinitely?
the amount of
Okay.
issues that we
All
have.
right, so let me see if I can start at the front and then go to the back. The board feels that we need more definition to exactly how the flagstone paving proposal is going to work. The board will be interested in a much more permeable solution for getting the water off the driveway. So we're going to need more information on that. With regards to the plans, the board can support the general shape of the plans and the proposed additions. However, the resolution and elevation need to have further study. So on the, let's take these one at a time. On the north elevation, we need either a different approach or better understanding of the window on the north elevation for the bathroom. On the south elevation, the proportions and sizes of the windows appear to be too large for the wall that they're occupying. The garage doors, we need a more definitive design of the garage doors. The designer may choose to bring us a catalog cut of a manufactured door that could be used there. We don't think that the current design concept is amicable with the general design approach. On the west elevation, further study needs to be done on the bay window at the kitchen sink. Needs to be defined further. Perhaps the applicant can look at a rectangular bay window rather than a cut angled bay window, and how the window is treated on the wall surface and its relationship to the ground plane. Some consistency on both the east and west elevation on the use of the window openings or window fenestration, both at bedroom number 1 and at the living room. On the east elevation, we need further resolution and maybe a different design approach to the door entry. Currently, it isn't in the same general Mediterranean language of the other pieces of architecture. That the window, the large window at the den, is not proportioned correctly for the wall that it's inserted on. The garage windows might need to be more consistent. in general, all of the windows need to be more consistent in the approach to the design solution. The cupola could be acceptable, except that it needs to have more study on the slope of the roof of the cupola and how the vent screen is utilized. We would suggest that maybe you travel around town and take a look at how some other folks have treated Mediterranean-style cupolas. That might be of help to you. I think in general that's the motion.
Second by Lisa. And any other discussion?
Just under discussion for the maker of the motion, I just wanted to refer to the roof, and I might have misunderstood, not sure. Was it, what was the roof type? Clay?
Two-piece
Is that S tile?
No.
That's not, okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Also, if he could include some cut sheets for the lighting that you have.
Oh, yeah, I had that
On the
as a note,
landscape.
the landscaping lighting, cut sheet, so I'll include that in my
And
motion.
any lighting on the house?
And the lighting on the house, if that's acceptable to the seconder.
We did have some house lighting.
Oh, he's got.
You did have,
With the landscape lighting.
it's the landscape,
Oh, all right. There you go. The landscape one.
so it's just the landscape.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, here we have, hopefully giving you some direction, sir, and we'll see you when you reach.
Okay, thank you.
That. All right, and now we have 438 Conejo Road. No, am I wrong?
Where are we
No,
going?
I'm sorry. 11 De Alicia. All discombobulated, please excuse me.
Okay.
Change one thing. There we go, Don Sherry. How are you? How are you? Wow, haven't seen you in ages.
Thank you.
Huge improvement. Hey, let's see now, we have project design review. Project design approval is requested. The project was last reviewed on November 18th, and we'll read into the record what was said before.
Okay, on November 18th, it was continued 2 weeks to the full board with the following comments. Study the material of the infinity pool wall. Clarification of the material of the pool wall where the water goes over the edge. Study reduction in the size of the pool. Provide the planting material for the planter in front of the pool. The board is supportive of the design of the rear balconies. Clarification of the wall heights around the pool. Provide planting plan including species, quantity, and sizes. An action was taken on a motion by Miller, seconded by Pierce. There was 2 in favor, 1 against, and 1 abstention. Sweeney opposed, James abstained. Bernstein, Woolery, and Zimmerman were absent.
Do you want me to introduce
Yes,
us?
please.
I'm Dawn Sherry, the architect, Kate Dole, our landscape architect, and Lauren Deason, who works in our office. And I just wanted her to meet you guys because you'll probably be seeing more of her in the future.
Great.
I was going to let Kate talk about the landscaping first because
Okay.
most of the comments revolved around the landscaping. So.
Yeah, actually, I just did a quick sketch by hand just to show you what I'm trying to do as far as screening. This is a client who likes to garden, so what I'm presenting you with today is the foundations for screening from below from Barker Pass and further beyond with some layering of shrubs and vines. And here is kind of the pool, if you'll excuse my rough sketch, is the pool is here, the spill wall is here. It drops down into a planter wall where I'm proposing using rosemary Tuscan blue, which will be able to be maintained below the level of the infinity edge, but will create a nice, dense, drought-tolerant hedge in that area. And then I was proposing on the lower planter wall here to do some ficus repens that will just cover that wall. And we were also proposing painting it a dark brown. This didn't come out exactly the color
It's a
that we
little
would
bit lighter
like.
than that. It just came out. a little bit.
And then in front of that, doing a hedge of grevillea, which this was a species fire sprite, which will get to be like 9-10 feet. You'll see how the slope just drops away here. And then below that, I was going to put in some citrus here for the owner, and then ground cover down to where we have some Arbutus marina. This is where Barker passes down there. And then a row of large white oleander along the hedge line, so that the resident here won't see the house from below. You won't see it from Barker Pass. And we're also proposing putting some vines on vine pockets here with, I think I was going to do a trumpet vine or something to grow along to add some green to the building. And this area is being raised up also, which will help with that elevation. And also what Don's done is going to make it so much more beautiful than what it is now. So.
Okay, and the other comment was the material and the heights of the walls of the pool. And the material, like Kate said, the trough wall, which is the secondary wall, and the planter wall below that will both be in plaster painted in a natural earth tone. It's called logwood. The dimensions of the wall were on there before, but I pulled the dimension strings out so you could see exposed wall heights. I added the note in case it was not clear. They're not significantly high walls. The top spill wall would be a ceramic blue, cobalt blue ceramic glazed tile, and then these two walls would be the plaster walls. And there was another comment. Were there more comments?
Study reduction of the size of the pool.
We did, and he doesn't want to reduce the size of the pool. He, because he wants to swim in it, because he doesn't want a straight lap pool. He wants the curves. He wants the curved infinity edge, but he needs the length. Mm-hmm. So by working with the hillside and with the existing contours and the curved walls, we felt that it was appropriate for the site, actually, with the appropriate screening, that is.
And there's not a lot of usable, square footage on this site because it's so steep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, having a nice pool there really gives it a lot of great benefit to the property.
Okay. And you've got the planning material, clarification of material pool wall, study the material of infinity pool wall. Is that the board is supportive of the design of the balconies? Is there anything else?
What are the height of the wall?
What else did we have here? Clarification of the wall heights, you did that. And provide planting plan, including species, quantities, and sizes, which you did as well. Okay. Let's see. So they're asking for design approval. We have, first we'll open up for public comment here. I don't see anybody coming forward. We have some letters. All right, then we close public comment, and now on to questions from the board. Any questions? Yes, Jamie.
What was the paving right here? Is it already there?
We haven't decided yet. No, there's a wood deck. There's a wood deck that's being demolished. It's right in this area. Mm-hmm. And it's dilapidated and falling down. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be,
probably flagstone or something.
Flagstone and something natural. We haven't determined that yet, but it won't be a wood deck. Okay. He doesn't want a wood deck.
And, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any other questions? And we'll move on to comments. Any comments?
Yes, thank you for coming back with Kate and clarifying all our questions on the landscape. My only question is the pool fencing and self-latching gate. Did we go over that last time?
Actually, I don't know if you want to over it, but we do have that here. And this is chain link fence all the way around.
No, actually, the chain link fence ends here and it turns into wood fence.
Okay, wood fence
And then
here.
wood fence into the building, and then on the other side, on the side of the garage, wood
here.
fence on the side of the garage down to about here, and then the rest is chain link.
And this is
there all the
self-closing,
alarms, and
self-latching.
there's a note on the plans that the alarms from all of the accessible doors that go to the rear yard have to have the alarm on them.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I was just going to say the plants look great, thank you. So I don't think there's a problem there. Like, for the backside of the pool.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would probably just for the board's edification, because some of you were not here last time when we looked at this. I voted against the project. I will vote against it again for two reasons. One is that I'm still not in favor of how the design has dealt with the windows along the whole facade to the south. Still think they're inappropriate. And when we first saw this project, we had a much smaller pool. It came back to us the second time, this last appearance, with a much larger pool, and I can't support that, given even the landscape solution, which appears to be probably acceptable, but I just think the pool is too large for this particular site.
Okay. And it doesn't sound as though some of the issues with the windows translated onto the motion, because they're not mentioned.
Right, that was the majority of the attendees did not agree with it.
Didn't agree with you, okay.
But Denise, just for your information, because you weren't here.
Yes.
And Michelle can show you we didn't reprint them because we didn't make changes, but we're replacing some of the existing very wide windows with French doors, so that when you're in the house, you don't feel closed off from the view. So when you're sitting in the living room, you're not looking at a wall and having to look over onto the view. We wanted the house to feel much more a part of the view and the whole hillside. We're not, adding. There's significant windows on the south elevation. They're all still there. They're hodgepodge. They're moved over to the side here and there, and you can see what it looks like now.
Oh,
what it looks like now, and what we wanted to do.
This was here before. Yes, I remember this.
And we want to remove the kind of 1970s dilapidated wood railings and do nice wrought iron railings. This whole element is kind of bringing three-dimensionality to the elevation, and it's going in a Spanish style, and adding a lot more shadow to the existing windows instead of just having them flat against the wall. We felt that it's actually diminishing the reflectivity. I know Fred doesn't agree with that,
but I do remember this now. Yes. Okay. Thanks for showing me again there. All right. Now, 48 feet long on that pool. Is that not bothering anyone else
Yeah, it does.
besides Fred?
It's not a residential size.
Can anyone see it?
No.
No. No one can see it.
And it's hot up there. I mean, who's going to be in that pool?
They've maintained the 1,250 square foot minimum required open yard in spite of the large pool, so it's fitting our basic requirements here.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Zimmerman.
All these doors are recessed back in, aren't they? I don't remember the project,
Yeah.
but they're all recessed back in. You don't
Yeah,
have
they're
them-
behind the covered porches.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is asking for project design approval. So, are there any other comments that need to be made? Any other questions?
You know, it is a large pool, but then again, I guess I feel like a person should be able to have the size pool that they want to have if it's not impinging on other neighbors.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, I think the pool, you know, is 50 feet at its longest point, but it's not a rectangle that's 25 feet by 50 feet. And I think the curve helps the, you know, shadowing the length of it. So I don't have a problem with
Okay,
that.
so it doesn't seem that anyone else has a problem with that. All right. Okay, then who would like to formulate a motion? Bernie.
Actually, I'm going to abstain.
Oh, I'm gonna have to
because
abstain, so
I didn't get a chance to look at the tape from the time I wasn't here, and I just don't feel like I should.
All right.
I will.
Okay, Lisa.
I'd like to make a motion to give this project design approval
Gonna
based on
sure.
the,
Here we go.
with following NPO findings that the project has consistency of appearance, is compatible with the neighborhood, has acceptable architectural materials, and is in coordination with Good Neighbor guidelines, as well as being a large improvement to the existing situation. And would you like to return then for
Indefinite continuance, because we
Indefinite
don't have engineering on
continuance.
the house and the caissons and everything that we're going to need.
with the following comments? Does someone want to, do we have comments?
Do you want to add some comments to it?
I have no comments. Does,
Oh, well, then you're just giving a project design
Yes.
approval and it feeds, and you've read the NPO findings?
yes.
Okay, and we'll take a vote on that.
Well, somebody needs to
We need a
second.
seconder? Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay. Under discussion, anything else under discussion? No. Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's 3 ayes, and I have to
I'm
abstain.
abstaining.
And Bernie abstains? Opposed?
Opposed.
No.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Does that carry?
Okay, that carries. So we have project design approval, and we'll see you upon your return. Someday soon.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, board members, was that continued to the full board or to consent?
Oh, yes. Full board?
To consent.
Consent. Okay.
that's
We don't need all of these. We have several copies here. don't we? Yeah, so we just need one of each.
I'll take one of the landscape plans.
There's only one here.
You know, I'd like to see it.
white ones.
Oh, okay.
Let me trade that in.
The color one for the
Okay.
client.
And then we'll
I
take-
would like to see it come back to the
Oh,
full board.
excuse me, hold on. You would like to see it come back to the
I
full
would like
board?
to see it because there's a lot of details.
Oh.
You know, full board. That's, I'd recommend.
Is that
going
all right
full
with the
board.
first and seconder then? Okay, so you're going to return to the full board. Okay, thanks. All right,
438 Conejo.
thank you. Okay, 438 Conejo Road. Got his very slowly. Got to get back on track. All right, this is a third concept review. Comments only. Project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer review for requested zoning modifications. The project was last reviewed on November 18th, 2013. So we will look for, here we have the comments from the last meeting.
Was continued from the last meeting, continued 4 weeks with the following comments. 1, study the front entryway regarding the relationship between the driveway, the turnaround, and providing a more formal pedestrian entryway. 2, ensure the car turnaround complies with city standards. 3, provide elevations of all site walls and fences. 4, clarify the heights of all walls by clearly labeling the finished grades, the tops and bottoms of all site walls. 5, specify the locations of all site walls and perimeter fencing and clearly specify locations and materials of all railings. 6, study fence transition and turning options, including decorative elements, for example, finials or other decorative elements. 7, clarify the retaining wall in the back of the house, section B, on the west property line, as seen on the east elevation. 8, the board finds the third story may be supportable, however, has requested that the applicant provide an analysis of the 20 closest lots to provide clarification of the 1, 2, and 3-story homes in the immediate neighborhood in order to verify neighborhood compatibility. 9, reduce the height of the entry tower element to provide a more complementary appearance with the adjacent roofs. 10, study proportions and locations of the windows on the tower element. 11, study the front window fenestrations and locations of dividing lights on first and second floor. 12, locate all exterior lighting, downspout, scuppers, and other applicable roof drainage materials. 13, label the finished grades on the sections and exterior elevations. 14, indicate possible location of the vegetable garden. 15, provide renderings of the front elevation to include planting materials and shading. Action was taken on a motion by Miller, seconded by James on a 4-0 vote. Bernstein, Woolery, and Zimmerman were absent.
Okay. Could you introduce yourselves, please?
Jose Luis Esparza, architect.
Okay.
Bill Mellett, landscape architect.
Hi, Bill.
Luis Fernandez, the owner.
Okay, I don't know if you're on there, but there you are. Okay, welcome. And how did you address these points?
Okay, if we can just take them one by one.
Okay.
On the site plan, we've reduced the hammerhead just so that we have enough of a turning radius to make the 3-point turn. And Bill will address the landscaping.
No,
One down
Well, it's okay. I guess we just need this.
Fine.
We don't have full board tonight. So.
We reduced the size of this. We had this 12-foot wide turnout here to get out of the garage and go out. Per staff comments, we reduced the size of that to 8 foot and changed the paving materials. Before they were the same. This is a permeable paver now, and this is stone paving to the front door to differentiate kind of pedestrian entry and vehicular parking areas.
And we used a template to make sure that we do have a ability to make a 3-point turn in and out. And if we can go to the sections, I've added, well actually we can show it on the site. I've added top of wall and finish grade at all of the transitions to see, so you can see what the height is. It keeps it down. The highest point is 7 feet with an added retaining wall, so that now we've got 4 stepping retaining walls going up to the backyard, so that we've got a more terraced look. And because of the way that the house sits and the adjacent grade, what made the most sense to me was to have the terrace come up and come around, so that our retaining wall, the front retaining wall is about 3 to 3.5 feet at the highest, and then at this point, it follows the grade 6 inches above grade and 6 inches above grade here. So that the perimeter wall is retaining wall is actually sloped. It's not stepped. And then these are level, creating the planting terraces. And then I still would really like to have a 42-inch wrought iron just safety guard here, so that kids playing in the backyard just don't go over the edge there. I'm not proposing any fence along here, only along here to the neighbor as part of his request that he wants privacy. And since our deck is about it's about grade at the property line, a fence should be more than enough to provide privacy. The fence heights are also provided on the sections. Let's see.
There's one.
One more.
Oh.
Those are the elevations. So we provided, finished floor, top of wall. This is, the retaining walls, and beyond what you see cutting through that section. You can see a more terrace look instead of a 7 and 7.5 foot wall. They're 5 to 6 feet. And at the property line, this will be a wood fence, and on top of a small retaining wall. And the highest this retaining wall gets is 2.5 feet. So we specified the fencing and the retaining walls on the site plan. And you also wanted to see on the elevations the retaining wall at the back of the site. So we've added that. No. This is the side elevation. One back, sorry. And it's not exactly a straight line because this property line flares. So this is kind of what you see coming back, and then as it comes forward, it becomes basically a small, 6-inch to 12-inch retaining wall. And we can talk about the tower since we're on this page. The tower height has been reduced by 2 foot 6 inches to 18 feet 6. So it's only 18 inches above this roof plane or this plate. And it came down far enough that I decided to keep the window head height the same as the window coming around the deck here. But because these are in the tower, I treated them the same with a 3 and 4 divided light. More of a picture window look instead of a slider look. And changed the grids to 2 and 3, which the proportions are much better. And I've added the lights. The lights are carriage lights, and this is the light that I'm planning to use. It's a Seagull. Not a very good Xerox copy of it, but this is the type of light, and it comes with a leaded glass option. and it's hooded for dark sky. And we're going to have one next to the front door, one here in the recessed balcony, or I'm sorry, recessed entry deck. I want to have two flanking the slider coming out of the living room out to the deck. And that's it for exteriors, for exterior lights. The rest we're going to do with the deck, we're going to illuminate with low sconces and landscape lights. And I've also located all of the downspouts on the elevations because most of our exterior walls are going to be block. I wanted to keep a surface mount, and those are going to be copper, half-round gutters. So this is the gutter, and then match the downspouts to copper as well. And we custom a colored rendered elevation. So we've got shading. Doors recessed, so there's quite a bit of shading there. Our windows are going to be recessed approximately 3.5 inches to 4 inches. So there's going to be a nice recess, and then the bottom is going to be flared. Even on the second floor where our walls are not going to be blocked, they're still going to be 8-inch thick walls. So we're going to maintain that around all of the exterior. And on the stairs, decided to use some round columns with pots at the top and let the wrought iron die into those. And I know that Bill had sent me something and it had roses on those, so it's much more colorful than what I drew. And maybe you can explain the landscaping a little bit.
There was number 14 was indicate possible location of vegetable garden. We actually just eliminated that.
Is that what
Yeah, this, up in the rear area here is just open decomposed granite area for the kids to play, or they may put a play set or something on there, and they just wanted to leave that open for whatever in the future. Let's see. With the changes in the retaining wall, we had just a slight change in the lawn shape before it kind of came out into this area. Now we pulled it in there. We've added little landscape tie path to the top here, really just for maintaining that slope and some access to the back. The walls are stucco finish with a stone cap. And I think that's it.
Okay. And did that...
The only other thing, I think you got all of them, we're supposed to look at the adjacent neighborhood in terms of 3-story structures.
That is the only thing that I wasn't able to get done.
Okay.
So, if we could come back on consent to look at that or next meeting.
Okay, well, this is your third concept review, still comments only, right? Yeah. Okay. So, can we even give this project design approval? We cannot. Okay.
No, Madam Chair, board members, this project is comments only because they are requesting zoning modifications. So they need to get, at this point, you would need to be supportive of the project before continuing it with the staff hearing officer.
Okay.
Madam Chair, two other pieces of information you may want to have from our last meeting.
Yes.
We had at least 2 public comments. One from the immediate neighbor to the uphill side of this house. Basically, it's
In the
that
back.
part, the back. My memory says she didn't have significant issues with the project. There was a letter from the owners two houses down. That particular house no longer is there. It's gone because of the fire. But the owners of that property wrote a letter, and they were quite concerned about the size of the house being 3 stories. And that's what precipitated our request to see how many other 3 stories were in the immediate neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, let's see, we're going to open up public comment, and I don't see anyone in the audience. Do we have any letters?
I have not received any new letters.
Okay.
If you want to see the previous letters that Mr. Board Member Sweeney acknowledged, they are in the file.
Okay. And we can move on to questions from the board. Any questions? Yes, Jamie.
Weren't we also looking at the entry and the driveway and the concern that there could be extra parking in the entry area?
I believe they've addressed it by
Yeah.
reshaping this whole inn. Before they had it over here, you could actually theoretically park in here.
Well, can't you still do that?
Well, it was 12 feet wide before, and we reduced it down. It's actually 7.6, I believe now, so I tried to pull it into just small enough.
Speaking to the microphone.
I'm sorry, just small enough so that it really doesn't invite you to pull back in there and park there. And you know, if you pulled in there, you would block the front door completely now. So it's kind of unlikely, I think, that that'll be used as a parking space or anything but, I guess, the smallest
The change in
vehicle.
pavement probably
Yeah,
also
helps
helps that.
define-
Helps define the... Okay.
I guess I just remember us saying, you know, if there could be some kind of planting material or something to divide those areas, so it, I guess,
I pulled this, used to sit back in here, so now we've kind of pulled this planting out another 4 feet further out here. It used to tuck to this edge right here.
okay.
So we've kind of pulled that out and kind of tried to pinch that in and leave access between the parking area and the front entrance, because that's how you will enter the property. And that is kind of their entry, so I think to make it too small might be problematic.
Thank
Okay, so...
So I think, you know, before that felt like it was all part of the paving, and now we've eliminated these two and pushed this out.
I guess my concern is it seems like, you know, you could really stack up these cars. You just back it up to this, as far as this area goes. So that's just my concern.
Okay. So what you're saying is that you were hoping for a landscaped buffer between the two areas, something that would definitely...
Completely.
And a passageway, like a, you know, maybe a...
With a break to get through, but no car could get in there. I understand. Okay. Any other comments
Madam Chair?
or questions?
Or you go ahead, I'll go after you.
I guess we're on questions.
Oh, questions.
Is the location of your downspouts on the front of the house considered permanent? I was just wondering why, they kind of were in the middle of the front elevation there.
Like here?
Yeah, next to the front.
On the east elevation.
East elevation to the right of the front.
Yes. I just felt that I was going to have enough water collecting from the upper roofs and lower roofs to make that an element and have the water coming down in that direction.
I'd like to ask if my board members are at all, is that
I'll wait till we go to comments. But
Okay. So we'll address that in a minute. Any other questions? Comments? Comments, Mr. Sweeney?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think this project's come quite a ways from the last few times we've seen it. It's almost there, but there's still a few things of concern. I'm satisfied now that the tower is proportionally where it needs to be. So it'll be important for us to look at the details when they come back for final approval. I think that the board is going to need to be fairly definitive about this third-story element, because we're going to have some neighbors who are concerned about having a third story. And I know all along we've indicated in our meeting minutes that we could be supportive of a third floor. I don't know that we've made a final decision on that, but at least that's the reflection of the minutes. I think that the window fenestration now, the divided lights, are finally there. They're appropriate. I am concerned about where the downspouts are located. They're not a huge element, but they're particularly the one on the bottom floor at the east elevation is a little awkward. I think this one's a little awkward.
Do you need them?
You probably need them, and maybe, could it be tucked into that corner, and could this be shifted somewhere? I'd be interested to see what Mr. Zimmerman has to say about that. I think that the staircases are finally resolved. I think that given the site and the challenges of this site, I think that this is appropriate in terms of how they now terrace these things to where they've had it last time. I understand why this railing is here. I'm hoping that the planting in here will begin to screen that out, so hopefully the landscape board members can look at the type of planting in here so that this gets that corner softened a little bit. This corner, you can see the height of this retaining wall, and it kind of has to be that because that's the site. So again, softening that wall is probably fairly important, but I'll look to the landscape folks to determine whether that's the planting plan presented can do that. So I think in general we're close, not quite there, but we're close.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zimmerman.
The tower is really in nice shape. Yeah, I think proportion-wise it's really nice. But this roof coming in here kind of throws it off balance. I think it should read by itself coming up. In some way, maybe curve this into the back of the tower so that the tower will read by itself. And I would like to see the three-story houses in the neighborhood.
So Jim, you're saying that right here, where it dies in here, maybe have that come back?
Yeah.
Something.
Bring it back a little bit and let that read.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Bernie.
I just want to let the applicants know that we appreciate working on this because I know it is challenging with the site. But I still, for me, would insist on seeing the 20 closest home study, and I would have to be convinced that it meets compatibility guidelines, and also the exterior staircase. I'd like to see some other examples of that in the surrounding homes also. The exterior, yeah. It just, especially the top one, is just a lot of outside staircasing, and I don't know if there's other houses up there that are like that or not.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Comments? Right, okay. I think it's come a long way as well. I wasn't here at the last meeting when you were here, but I think fortunately things are definitely shaping up from the first time I was here. Third story, that is definitely the main issue, I think, that has yet to be resolved. There certainly is a lot of exterior space here that could hold that story on the second floor. It's not as though you don't have the room to keep it all on just 2 stories. So, I don't know that option was ever looked at, if it was ever anything that you considered. But this is the design you present to us, so I think it's going to be very critical to see what else is in the neighborhood as far as 3 stories is concerned. It does look a little wedding cake-ish, going up like this. But I think that overall the proportions have definitely improved. Did you take a look at the plantings there in that top terrace? Does that look like it's going to do the trick? Yeah, pineapple guava. Yeah.
This wall, excuse me, I guess in a sense, what Fred was referring to was this area right here?
Right here.
Yes.
Oh, no. Right back there.
Yeah, right up in the back.
Yeah.
So these are large, pineapple guavas, ceanothus, large ceanothus. They should get as high as the railing, and higher than the railing, really.
Okay. So it looks like that's going to work. Okay, well, yes, Lisa, excuse me.
One more comment as far as the visual and physical separation of the driveway from the entry. I would like to see, here, I'm going to hand this over to you, Denise.
Okay.
That this is the driveway, that there might be some sort of...
Like a hedge?
With a,
so
5-6 foot entry.
I'm sorry?
Or with a...
Like right here.
Separation.
Okay.
So like a hedge that has a gap for pedestrians to come through. Right in there.
Probably for safety.
And, and to keep the cars from running over the pavement for the pedestrians.
Madam Chair, I have a question before we go to a motion.
Okay.
Basically, fellow board members, just so that we give the applicant and the owner a little clear direction. Right now, we've been presented, this is the 3rd visit with a 3-story building. We've kind of continually said we think we might be able to support it, but we haven't definitively made a decision. We've asked the applicant to show us the 20 closest homes, I think it was, where 3rd stories occur. What I'm trying to get at is if we send the applicant away and we don't have that information on the 3rd story, and then he comes back, continues to present us the 3rd story, but then we discover there are, say, no other 3 stories within the 20 closest houses, and we conclude that's not a good thing, then he's got to come back with another solution without a 3rd story. See what I'm getting at? So would it be best to advise the applicant to be prepared, given the timing, to come with a solution without a 3rd story, or just wait until we get that information?
I'm
That's
sorry,
a question.
I missed why we didn't get that information.
He wasn't able to get it for whatever reason.
Okay.
So I agree with you. I think that at this juncture, it would be really nice to see a 2-story option to have, in case, I mean, you're going down this road and you've been down it for a while now, and you're fine-tuning a 3-story house, but that's not to say that once the evidence is in, that we are not going to go, ooh, gosh, gee, that's not compatible with the neighborhood.
And that could have implications on your staff hearing officer process for your modifications. That's why I'm kind of getting him so far down the road, and then it's got to back up a whole lot.
Yeah, and
So
redesign
that's
like
my
at
concern.
a late
Maybe
date. You
Michelle
don't
would
have to do
have a
that
little
either,
help on
so.
this.
Yes, Madam Chair, Board Member Sweeney, to address your comment. At this point, the 3rd story does not require modification, so if the board is comfortable with the design, with the exception of the 3rd story, and feels comfortable with the requested zoning modifications, they are asking for 3 modifications, one along the front and both interior for the building structure for the 1st floor. You could proceed and make a motion to forward it to the staff hearing officer with those comments and provide very clear direction that a 3rd story has not yet been proven to be supportable, and that you carry forward that original comment from the last motion that the board wants to see that 20 closest lots analysis of the 3 stories in the neighborhood, and we'll make a determination at that time. I think that's a reasonable approach.
But is there
Well,
another approach
But
besides
the
that?
challenge of that approach is if we come back and say, look, 3 stories is not acceptable,
Then we're back to the drawing.
we're back to the drawing board with a second story, and the second story works, and we all agree the second story works, but it might require an additional modification or be part of the modification. You see what I'm getting at? You
Yeah.
can make a second floor work, but it might need modification. He doesn't want to have to go to the staff hearing officer twice. I'm trying to get
Well-
that resolved before he goes to the staff hearing officer.
Again, at this point, it's in your discretion. If you're not comfortable to send it to the staff hearing officer on this design and want them to come back with the 3-story evidence and maybe a 2-story option, then you could request that. That would be the other option. The other option is that the footprint of this design requires 3 modifications. They're requesting 3 modifications for the footprint of this design. If they came back with the staff hearing officer is not going to be concerned with whether the building's 2-story or 3-story. That does not affect the modification.
So you see what I'm getting at?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
One of the reasons why the 3rd story fits this site is if we did a 2-story, our backyard would be higher than our roof at some points, especially the way it's.
And I understand that. What we're trying to help you with is avoiding this being appealed and having you have to go in front of Planning Commission and the City Council. So if we can come up with a good solution here, you won't have to go down that road. So given that discussion, can I make a motion and then we can discuss it? Or do you want to?
Well, I just wanted to point out another option, that your backyard could be terraced back here. You could do the same thing you did here, and terrace, and then get that level down to the 2nd story level. Could you not? Is it?
Yes, but
backyard keeps getting smaller. It's already small.
Yeah.
I know. Well, that's the problem with the Hillside project. You know,
So Madam Chair, I'm going to offer a motion, and we'll see if we get a second. Motion is that we have the applicant return indefinitely, not to go to the staff hearing officer at this point, but come back with the information on the 20 closest homes that we requested in the last comments on three stories, and to provide us with for the applicant to come back with a 2-story alternative so that we can see the ramifications of what might happen if it goes to two stories. That, I think, then we can make a determination that then allows the applicant to move on to the staff hearing officer with an appropriate solution. With regards to the architecture as presented, we'd like the applicant to restudy the east elevation downspouts and how the 1st-story element intersects the circle of the tower, and also the downspout at the 2nd floor on the east elevation needs adjustment. We'd like a little further information on maybe a photograph of an example of how this staircase is used in other applications, the outside exterior staircase. And then we'd like a different approach on the landscape plan at the front entryway from the driveway to the entry porch or the entry slab area. That would limit that to a pedestrian opening only. I think those are the comments.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion?
A second.
Okay. Jim seconds. All in favor?
Wait, could I just
under
clarify? Could you tell us what was number 1 of what he said?
Oh, the first item?
Yeah, the first item.
20 closest home.
20
And was
closest
there
homes.
something about the two-story or what?
And then provide a two-story alternate study.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
So indefinite continuance?
Thank you.
How you doing, Bill?
Good.
Good, good. Good to see you. Here's that. And we're racing right along. We now have 2400 Mount Cavalry Road. Gosh, we still have, oh, another one after this. That's it.
A modular single-family residence.
Yeah.
How are you, by the way?
It says concept review,
getting along.
continued concept review.
Every day, so it's a
Continue,
little
sir.
better.
It's our second concept review, comments only. Project requires environmental assessment. The project was last reviewed at consent on March 26, 2012. Wow, a long time ago.
It is a long time. Michelle, do you need this? Are you-
We're going to need to be,
So while she's unfolding that, in March of 2012, March 26th, the following comments were made at consent calendar. Continuing indefinitely the full board with the following comments. The board had a positive comments regarding the project size, bulk, and scale, and the design flow of the project. Provide a comprehensive study of neighborhood design and architectural styles for neighborhood compatibility. So there was a neighborhood compatibility issue apparently in
board-
March 2006.
Board members and Madam Chair, if I could actually get you to read the project description, since that was last
Yes.
reviewed, the project has been
Okay.
revised,
All
so
right.
it's a revised
So-
project.
okay, concept review to construct a 500 square foot, one-story, modular, single-family residence located on a 4.5 acre lot in the Hillside Design District. The proposal includes approximately 120 cubic yards of site grading to be balanced on site. The proposal will replace the original house, which was destroyed in the T-fire. Plans to rebuild a new 2,000 square foot, one-story, single-family residence has been temporarily abandoned. Okay, brings us up to date. And could you introduce yourselves, please?
Yes, I will. We on? Brent Daniels with L&P Consultants and Hugh Brownlee, a construction manager as well. I think what I'd like to do first off is just give you the pre-fire and then the post-fire understanding of the lot.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got, let's call it 4.5 acres here. This is the last parcel at the city limit line, boundary up here. Beyond this was the Mount Calvary Monastery, and I think we all know that that burned as well. There was a former residential main house here. There was a large 1,700 square foot accessory space here that the mom and the dad actually lived in at one point in time before this event. And there is another residential studio of about 450, 500 square feet. The parcel was an entire loss. Just want to get that out in front of the board members here. What we're trying to do now, and what has transpired over the years here, is that the owner is in a fight with the insurance company. And I know you probably have heard that many times. This has been a multi-year effort by the two to get to a date where they will be in court. And right now, that date is in May of 2014. The owner is tired of waiting. He wants to put something up on this property. And what he is looking at is putting a 500 square foot modular unit here. We also show a two-car carport here for zoning approval. We show another accessory space akin to where the first one was here, and you can see this is more on the very top. This right now is just a place mark for something in the future. And then a larger area for the main house, taking away from being at the top of the bluff here and inside the 4.5 acre parcel. So today we're talking about this, and I would like to show you what modulars do these days. Thank you. No worries. You can ride all over it. It's yours. There's a floor plan here. It's a one bedroom, 500 square feet. It's, I can only say that we've got a floor plan, we've got west and east elevations. You can see the siding represented on here. We've got a north elevation, and that north elevation shows a roof line here that actually is facing the north side. So it wouldn't be facing down into the city. As you see here, there wouldn't be any part of the roof that would be visible from the south side. And here is windows. There will probably be an awning at some point. What we really want to do, and here's a quick rendering of something that is specific to this design here. Secondly, the color itself is a rendering for you folks to comment on what you might like to see with respect to that. We're really here to hear from you. This is new for us on this property, and so it's something that I understand you can't really get involved too much with this modular, but to the points where you can get involved, we'd like to hear about. The Mr. Miller, I think it was, who saw the last and first rendition of what we wanted, which was more of a house, a 2,000 square foot home, and it was not a modular. Can I see this for a second, please? Thank you. He had asked for a neighborhood design, excuse me, just some kind of a design study. What I want to say here is that really the neighborhood is 4 separate single-family homes, and the homes I've been talking about up here. So it's 5 separate parcels. It's a gated community, and so I thought it best to just show the members here the four other types of designs that you have, and you might be able to make some kind of some kind of a string of what might be, what might be some consistency. I don't really. So, but I'd like to hear from you on that as well. We are eager to start our process, but I wanted to get through concept again because this is so far different than what we had a year and a half ago. And because we've got a set date for the courts next May, the owner wants to move forward and to just get something on the property and make it look nice and fit in with the neighborhood. That's what he's hoping for. And again, I'd like to hear from you. And this is the addresses of the 4 that actually go with this. And I don't know if I gave you 3 of these or not.
It's okay to see it on camera. Okay. So that's the location of the modular, and these are the neighboring properties.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. Anything else in here we should see?
Well, it's more background, and if we want, and you'll see here that's the site. Mm-hmm. Everything above that is county. That's correct. This was very close after the fire hit. The stone walls, they withstood everything, but there was really nothing left, as you can see elsewise. Some foundations and the stone walls. Just additional, just to get the feel of how that was. And again, a fireplace. And there was a pool. The water didn't burn. And they're going to keep the pool, which was interesting. And this is Google. And this is right after the client was able to put a few temporary RV cabin type trailers on the property in order to get his family up there a couple years back. They still exist. They're temporary in nature. They will be moved next year if we are able to get this first modular into the property. And I just, well, we'll see it in another slide. But this is created as one unit, and this is 2 units that's put into one, and so that's the template. You'll see it's a depiction. That's all, just a depiction. But this is the one that's there now in the blue. That's the one that's.
This is one you're going to do.
This is the one we're presenting today, right? Right.
All right.
Okay.
I think we got it.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make comment on this project? Then they must step forward now or forever hold their peace. Any letters?
There is a letter from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we're going to close public comment, and now we go to questions from the board.
Madam Chair, my first questions are for staff. Are we under any kind of issues about what we're allowed to review or not review?
Comments only.
Other than the comments only? Is there any other issues, modifications or zoning issues or anything?
No, there's no, at this time, this is a rather large parcel. They're complying with their setbacks. There's no requested zoning modifications at this time.
Okay. And then my question to the applicant, based on how you presented this, this modular is identified as temporary, but will it in fact really remain once the main residence is built?
The modular that we are presenting today is not temporary. It is a permanent fixture on the property, or will be, I hope, a permanent fixture on the property. What you may have read down here is specific to the kitchen area itself. Given that that will be the first resident to show up on the property, we have put a kitchen in it. At the time the main house is built with a kitchen, that particular kitchen in the modular will turn into just the bar sink and half half a refrigerator situation that you see in the zoning ordinance that would allow.
Accessory structure, basically.
Accessory structure, that's correct.
And then, do you have a design yet for this? Is some kind of covered carport?
Yeah, it's a covered carport. They're talking about timbers, but
you don't have a drawing yet of what that looks like?
No, we don't.
Okay, and then I'm assuming that the general architectural style of this portable would be the general architectural style approach to the remaining permanent buildings when they come? In other words, this has a very contemporary horizontal set of elements, and it has a metal roof, etc. So would that, is the owner interested in keeping that same set of architectural languages?
I can tell you he's interested, but no plans have been made for these other two with respect to design at this point. We really are taking it one step at a time, and these other two footprint areas are there for your understanding that we have two more to go, but we really are looking at this first one only to
And then it's
to
my
be approved.
understanding that most of the vegetation that was on this site is now gone because of the fire?
Yes.
So there aren't existing trees, there aren't any other major pieces of vegetation that survived?
Well, there are a number of oak trees that have survived, and as you know, some of those oak trees sprouted within 3 or 4 months. But severely burned, and I would say most of them. You would have to get an arborist out there and really understand, how much of the life has been taken out of the oak trees, and they may live another 8 to 10 years. I mean, we've been told that before, and so it's.
So in the interim, this proposed modular is going to be more visible than it would have been had a lot of these trees survived. Correct?
I think I want to disagree with you.
I'm just asking the question. I don't.
Okay. Well, then I would just say no.
Okay.
I would just say no. And would you like a reason? I'd like to give you.
Yeah, that might be helpful for the rest of the board members.
Right. Okay. The reason is, and again, this is pre-T-Fire. We're talking about putting this modular way back here by the pond that exists today, and what we had previously with respect to the main house was something much more forward towards the hillside itself.
So the elevation mark at that house is 1165, and what's it down here? No, maybe I'm not reading that right. 1179 appears roughly.
11.
That's 1179. So it's basically at the same level if those grade marks are correct.
Right, and here you had 3 stories, and here we've got 1 story.
Okay, and it's back.
And it's back. And this is a meadow area, a playing field, if you will, with just crabgrass, if I could say crabgrass.
Okay. And Mountain Drive is over there.
Mountain Drive is two below. You've got Gibraltar, and then you've got Mountain Drive down below. That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Yes, Lisa.
Yes, Madam Chair. And board members, on Jamie's behalf, she had to leave, and she was wondering if possibly some of the elements from the pictures you've showed us, the stone or the wood or some of the stucco might be in the pictures of these homes back here. If some of that might be incorporated into the hardscaping around the modular. She specifically mentioned the arch that was left after the fire. That if
Is that still there?
No, that was removed.
That's gone.
Yeah.
But understand about the stone, and I think we have the ability to incorporate that in landscaping.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions? Comments?
Comments.
Comments.
Comments. Well, in my world, this is the first concept review, not a second concept review. It's really
Yeah,
a whole
it's
different
pretty much a
project,
first
so
concept.
that's kind of a little misleading. I guess, let me go back to the photograph that's presented, because I'm assuming at some point you're going to come back to us with a little more design in this, and you're here to just get the idea blessed.
Yes.
So when you come back, I think, I don't have a real big problem with what's being presented in terms of the architectural style and the fact that it's only 500 square feet. It's rather small. It's, it's going to be seen from some locations within the general hillside area of that area of the city, across the canyon and across the way. But it's relatively benign. I think what's going to be important is the color of the horizontal wood members and the color of the roof. My sense is the palette should be more in favor of some of the surrounding landscape colors that are generally there most of the year, which is the golden part of the year rather than the green part of the year. I would be interested to see how the resolution of the carport is resolved in terms of its design in relationship to this modular design. I'm assuming that they're going to be compatible, but I don't know that, so we'll want to see that. So I think those are my big concerns. The issue is that this is going to be there for some long period of time, and there'll be other residential elements added to the property. And I think the important thing for the owner to know, and then in my mind, if he comes back to us in 2 or 3 years with a house design, from my perspective, then the architecture needs to be compatible. The architectural language needs to be compatible. So if he's going to buy into this, either come back to us with a design that's compatible or make major architectural changes to this building if the new building is a different kind of architecture. So we've seen some houses up here that have been replaced in the fire. We saw one some time ago that had 2 or 3 structures. There was outbuildings, etc., and the architectural language was all compatible, and we didn't really have a big problem with it. So I would encourage your owner to take that into account if we were to give this one a blessing.
Thank you.
No, I agree. I think that since it isn't a temporary structure, it's important to look to the future and to what stylistically you want to achieve here on this property. It's a big property, and it won't be seen by many, I'm sure, but that's our job.
Yeah,
is to make sure everything's going to be compatible and lovely. It's a lovely piece of property. Any other commentary here you want to make? Jim, any?
Yeah, I think that, as an accessory structure, I think it's fine. You had noted here that an awning, so is that like a carport? Are you required to make a covered parking space?
No. That's for
That's just the
sun.
sun.
That's south. That's the south elevation.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
It's
I see.
it's rather exposed up there.
I would like to see a little more landscaping around the structure, but other than that, I think it's fine.
Okay. So who would like to formulate a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll move that we request the applicant to return to us indefinitely. Maybe in 2 weeks. Do you want to come back in 2 weeks? Indefinitely? Definitely. With the following comments, that we'd like to see a site plan with some landscaping around this structure. The board finds that the proposed approach for a modular is acceptable, but would like to see a color palette that's amenable to the surrounding natural landscape, particularly the gold, yellow hues. That we'll want to see the adjoining proposed design of the adjoining proposed carport. And that we would encourage the applicant and the owner to take into account that this will be one of several buildings to come in the future and that the architecture should be compatible.
Okay. Sounds good. We have
I'll
a second. Okay, Bernie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Wonderful.
Can I ask a
you.
question, please?
Yes.
And it's just about process. If you want us back for concept again, could that be noticed as concept and prelim?
It doesn't matter if it's you have to have environmental review completed before a project can be noticed for project design approval. At this time, you're still in environmental review process. Not sure where that's at. I'm not the planner on the project, but
So no, we as a board can't give him
Can't
any.
give it to you
We can't give it to you until the environmental piece is
Right.
done.
Understood. I think that it was taken care of today, but I'll get with you on that.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, then would we be able to?
The next time, possibly.
Whenever the next time comes. And
Understood.
just to kind of help your timeline a little bit, if you came back and addressed the issues we just put in the motion and came back with a complete set of drawings, details, et cetera, we could be in a position, I believe, we could give you preliminary and final at the same meeting if everything's here. Color board, full set of drawings, details, colors, et cetera, landscaping, et cetera. If you had all of that, we might be in a position to do that if you had environmental clearance. Ordinarily, most people don't. You have to come back a third time.
Right, of course. Just real quick, preliminary, would we not have to go through the 10-day appeal period there and then get final afterwards?
the appeal period's granted on an approval. So if it's granted project design and final approval at the same hearing, it's just one 10-day appeal period. If it's granted to two separate hearings, it's two separate 10-day appeal periods.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank
So
you.
did we vote on that?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, folks. This is what we needed.
All right.
No, truly.
We'll keep this one. Yeah, she was here for the motion.
Sure, for the motion, I don't know where
Wasn't
she
she?
went.
Oh, she wasn't. No.
Did she leave?
No, she's, her things are here.
Find out in
She
a minute.
stepped out for a minute, I guess. 1562 Marquard Terrace, excuse me. I can never say that right.
I'm going to set this.
Okay, this is another continued concept review. It's our second concept review. Comments only, again. Project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer review for requested zoning modifications. This project was last reviewed on November 4th, 2013. Could you introduce yourselves, please?
Joanne Gronquist.
Hello.
Joe Ewing.
Hello. Welcome.
Ken Grunquist.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we're going to read into the record the minutes from the last meeting.
This was continued indefinitely to the full board with comments. Study all window fenestrations in the new addition to be more consistent in style of the existing structure. In particular on the south and east elevation, study the windows in correlation with the roof lines. Study the roof element of new addition at the second floor bathroom. 3, provide a color materials board. 4, study and specify the stucco treatment. 5, provide clarification of the roof material. The action was taken on a motion by Miller, seconded by Sweeney on a 6-0 vote. Zimmerman was absent.
Okay, thank you. Would you address those issues, please?
Yes. I think we made all the changes that were requested in the building. Didn't do as much on the windows, but we really needed that design, and a slight change there.
Okay.
Kept the windows, most of the windows as is.
Okay.
The elevation. Plan, there was no request to change the plan at all, so we hadn't changed the floor plan.
Okay.
Most of it's existing.
So, do you want to go down the list and show us how you complied or didn't comply accordingly?
I guess I could.
So would you like me to read them? And then
Yeah,
I'll help you? Okay, so first was the windows, and you said you haven't changed the windows.
I have changed them some.
Okay.
Okay, why don't we look at that
So why
first?
don't you show the changes?
Show us the changes. And I guess we go to the elevations for that, correct?
These were the existing windows, except this was a single window without the corner. And we just took the 2 windows that were here and made it larger, because when you're sitting at the dining room, you can actually see the ocean, the dining room table. And here, the same thing. We have a corner window here that shows up in this elevation that where you can see the ocean when you're sitting in the living room, because there are large windows. The other thing we had was just this window right here, where there's several different windows, and not opened up like this, and not opened up like this. And there's a lot of trees that hide a lot of those windows too. These are all fruit trees in front. And this is the master bathroom shower, so they can be in the shower and see the sunrise.
Should we look at the other elevations?
No change there, other than the fact that we have the metal roof.
Okay.
We've also shortened the roof overhang on a lot of the house too.
2 was study the roof element of the new addition at the second floor bathroom.
This is the back of that bathroom, and this is the front of the bathroom at the street, and this is, you can't see it, but this is at the side of the house.
I think it was changing the style of the roof there to make it a hip rather than a...
Yeah.
I see.
All the hips.
So
that
that
lowered
you did change that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Color and materials board.
So we have these 2 samples. This is for the metal roof. And
which one are you choosing?
We haven't actually decided on the colors, but we're wanting to go as neutral as possible. We're thinking kind of in this area here.
We're airing towards this one.
Weathered copper?
Possibly that, or possibly that. You might be open to that. But our siding would be a smooth stucco, which would be, sort of a gray color, and I'd want to have
Colors here.
a bit of contrast to the side of the house in terms of color.
So again, we haven't chosen color yet, but we want the smooth, smooth trowel
And
plaster.
we do have some photographs that we'd like to show of the smooth trowel plaster.
Speak into that. This is all being.
I apologize. We brought actually 10 photographs of other houses in our neighborhood, both on the front and back side of the mesa, that have metal roofs as well as smooth trowel plaster. And I like the examples of the, and you'll eventually see it, but the gray smooth trowel plaster
Should I
is
just
very,
start?
very attractive, very clean.
So that one is actually on the corner of Gillespie and Mission. And then this one is on Robbins with that metal roof. So it's very
I guess you
close.
have to speak into that. There we go.
So it's actually very close to where we live.
Close to where you live. So these are good examples of what's in the neighborhood.
Of nearby. This is on the mesa, so this is a smooth.
Smooth trowel.
So close to, again, on the other side of the hill from where we are.
It would be a gray color, but possibly a bit darker than that.
You can't
This
see much in that
one is
That's
on
just a
Flora
metal roof.
Vista, actually, yeah, the
I
metal
see.
roof
So
there.
These are examples of standing seam metal roofs.
Exactly, yeah.
There is an example of the corner window as well on
So this
Crest.
is one that's being built.
And ours would not be that large. I was shocked to find that. I was simply looking for roofs and siding, and I came across that project at the very top of the mesa.
And there's a better picture of that one, right there.
There it is.
More examples of the smooth walls. That's on the mesa. There's about 3 houses on that one street. I think it's La Jolla, exactly, on the mesa.
Yep, that's it.
That's it.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. That's very good to see.
Great.
Helpful. Okay, so you haven't quite determined yet what you're going to pick for colors, but smooth trowel plaster with the standing seam metal roof somewhere in these tones.
Right.
I think for the siding, we more or less have decided on a gray.
Okay, so something like that maybe, or
Yeah, probably.
more over here. Well, this is actually sanded, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Maybe something like that. Exactly. We're looking more neutral than anything, than any color.
That and the zinc brick's kind of good looking. Okay, well, I'm gonna choose for
And
you.
the dark green leaves on those fruit trees would look good against that there.
Right.
I've just been picking out colors for my own place, so that's why it's appealing. Once you get in that mode, you can't
A
stop.
sample of a standing seam
Uh-huh.
roof.
Yeah,
Just
that's a
picked
nice
up at
color
the-
too.
That
yeah,
color
yeah.
appeals to me as well.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. It's
You
kind of
know.
a gray brown in
Right.
there somewhere.
Again, we don't want to go with some red or,
Oh,
you know,
thank you.
anything like that. We just want neutral, something
Dark
that
red.
lasts forever.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, any other points there that you want to read off to us? Was that it?
That was all of them.
Ooh, that's an 11-foot window, huh?
I think that's going to happen.
Mamma mia. Okay, anything else?
No, that was all the points
That
on
was
the
the
last.
points, those were the points. Okay then, I'm going to open up public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a letter to acknowledge from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Thank you very much. And other than that, I see no one in the audience springing forth out of their seat to come and talk to us, so I'll close public comment. And now, questions from the board.
Are you just painting the garage door to match?
I haven't figured that out
The
yet.
garage door, at the back, it's way back at the back of the house.
Yeah,
I thought we were going to use the same garage door.
that's what I was just
Yeah.
asking, just paint it to match.
And paint it the same, oh yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, one question about the soffit at the overhang. Like you have your metal roof coming down. Are you going to use another type of material on the soffit, or is that going to be plastered?
You're talking about wall or roof?
Right here?
Oh, the soffit?
Yeah.
That would probably end up being plaster because we're in a high fire zone. And we try to keep as much non-flammable material on the outside of the house.
It would be nice to use, I think, another material there. You know, that's non-combustible.
We could also use a metal, which matches the roof and it's light.
Yeah, that's
and it's
possible.
perforated, so you have the ventilation.
Because you're looking up at it.
Yeah.
So a plastered soffit look kind of rough, I think.
And it's more expensive to have here.
Any other questions?
So that window there is that window there.
Yes.
Correct? And then you have another shape. You have a window. Where is that window?
That's access to the closet.
Okay, so that's not a window.
No.
So this is a window. That's a
That's a
window.
window.
That's a window. Okay.
Kind of follows the roof line. And it's on the west elevation. However, there's a mountain beside on the west elevation.
Okay. And then these windows are over the sink?
Over the kitchen counter that passes.
Kitchen counter. So on the inside, there's cabinets above and,
Yes.
and cabinets below.
Martinis come through that.
Okay. And what are you thinking about that this is going to be made of, the chimney cap?
A metal frame for the smoke vent, open on the top, and it'll be like a grill on the side that you can see light through it when the sun's just right, but other than that you can't see the light.
Okay.
Carbon coat.
And can you really get an 11-foot
Yes.
piece of glass?
Yes.
Okay.
Very definitely. My dining room table was that when the kids were home.
And the front door is going to be what? Is that what it's there now? Or?
Match the colors.
No, I mean, what's the material? Is it?
It'll be a wood door.
So it's a smooth wood door.
Smooth wood door, I would imagine.
Okay. And the railing here is what material?
That's redwood.
And then what's?
And the posts are redwood.
But is this some kind of screen thing?
It's a screen redwood. I have it on my house.
Okay.
Trellis? Is that what you mean?
It's a trellis.
It's like a trellis piece.
That's correct, yeah.
It's forever.
And so these are hopper windows.
Those are hopper windows.
Those are casement windows. Yeah. And there's no openings in these windows. That's
on each side of the house has the openings.
That's a double hung window.
Double hung, yeah.
Okay. Is that there? Is that existing?
No.
That window. So that's a new window.
And the laundry room and the back entry.
That whole area is new.
Okay. And that's double hung. Okay. And that's double hung. Okay. Okay. That's my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
I'm still not satisfied that, I can appreciate the fact that you want all these windows, and you've been up to the site, you've been up to the house, and understand why you want all these windows. But I think the way that their windows have been placed on the walls are still not correct yet. They're proportionally out of sync. You've mixed casements with awnings, with double hung windows. There's just a whole variety of things going on here, and you're trying to get a look, like you shared with us, those other houses that you obviously admire because you've looked at them. And I think if you want to get to that architecture, you need to do some more work on this one because it's not there yet. I was sketching last time you were here for solutions. I think you have addressed some of my concerns. There was an odd window up here last time. I think that's gone away. That makes more sense. You know, some of these windows that are kind of odd shaped up here are really bothersome. Those guys up there, the language of your window fenestrations is all over the place. And I think it's going to deter from the look you're trying to achieve. So I think that's a concern. I'm concerned about how this skylight really looks on that roof. I'm appreciative of the fact that you restudied this roof. That looks much better now. I think that, and Jim, I'm going to ask you on this south elevation, the pitch of this roof bothers me a little bit. I'm not sure that I'm reading it correctly. Up here, see that pitch? I'm not sure that that makes that whole element read correctly. And I'm trying to visualize it in 3 dimensions. It's almost, in some degree, if you want to do this corner window and that arrangement of windows, it's almost either make the window higher or drop the plate height down on this corner. It just doesn't look right to me. It needs some work, I think, a little bit. But
That's on the back side, isn't it?
well, but you see this from the street. You see this elevation. You see this piece from the street. So in 3 dimensions, it's going to look a little strange, in my view, at this point. So I think the composition of the house needs some help here still. I'm not concerned about the color palette they're proposing, nor I'm not overly concerned about the fact that it's a standing seam roof. I think certainly the height of the standing seam is going to be important when we get down to reviewing details. I think the colors are, the approach is probably acceptable. How the skylights get detailed and colored and placed in the roof is going to be fairly important. But we have things going on here. We got a really shallow roof pitch over here, and we've got a steep one over here. The elements are kind of all there, but they're not there. There's a lot of things going on here. So that's what's bothering me.
It's all 5.5 and 12.
Well, I understand that, but in some cases, how you articulate the roof shapes, given the fact you've got a very complicated roof system going on here, is really important.
Comments?
Well, I was just going to see if the other board members agree with Mr. Sweeney, or if some of us might feel that it's a little bit closer to being approvable.
Well, I agree with Mr. Sweeney. I think that the vernacular is kind of all over the place here, and that these oddly shaped windows kind of scream 1980s to me, this kind of thing, if not earlier. And this I find extremely odd right here. This the way that is. I don't much get that, how that fits on that roof, and also it looks like they come up and then they're clipped, and then this one's pointed. So that's another odd thing for me is that there's no consistency in the windows or in the roof
I don't
shapes.
recall. Do we have a roof plan?
Is there a roof plan? I thought he had.
Over here.
There it is.
I would like some guidance on.
Sorry, turn to comment.
I'm sorry.
You'll be able to comment.
You'll be
when we
able
all
to say
finish.
something in a minute, but we just
Thank
got to
you.
get our little 2 cents in. So I guess I'll cut it short and just say I agree with my colleague, Mr. Sweeney, about the fenestration. How's everybody else? Yeah.
Mr. Sweeney's, your comment, Ted?
Mr. Zimmerman.
Well, I think that this street elevation with the 11-foot long window just seems a little overpowering. Yeah, I think some of these windows can be reworked. Some of them going up with a triangle and then cut off at the top. They're really minor things, which I think could be reworked. So.
Jim, one of the issues, because this is that concept review, when it comes back, would also be, I'm assuming there's some attic spaces in here somewhere. So how the vents are treated are going to be probably fairly important too. I mean, they don't show up on the drawings yet.
Yeah, it looks like
Here's one.
looks like you have
sloping.
sloping ceilings inside. Is that correct?
What's that?
You have sloping ceilings inside. You don't have much of an attic space, right?
Very little attic space. Most of the upstairs rooms are all sloping.
All
existing.
these are sloping. These are sloping, so it'd be a good idea to see how you're going to handle the circulation, the ventilation.
Yes, we have that.
You make insulation now that you can just spray it.
Head of the stairs. Volume space there.
It's all coming down as a plane, just straight down. So that's one big slope coming down towards the street.
Hard to see when you're down in the street because the street slopes down so far. It's, you're going to be seeing a little bitty sliver of it.
Well, I understand that, but you see these properties from across the canyon. We have to look at it as a whole context of the whole neighborhood and the city at large, not just when you stand on the street. So that's our obligation, is to look at the whole thing, how it sits within the community.
Okay, how can we move this along? We have comments only.
And it still has to go to a staff hearing officer.
Right.
So I'll try to formulate a motion and see where it goes. So we make the following comments with the applicant to return on an indefinite schedule. That gives you some flexibility about when you can get back here. That we'd let's just use this. On the south elevation, we'd still like to see a reconfiguration of the 3 front windows, possibly into another set of windows that could be 3 or more windows. We would like to see some proportional changes with the windows at the second floor bathroom in relationship to the pitch and level of the second floor roof. We'd certainly like to see a little bit more information on what the chimney cap is going to be detailed like. On the east elevation, we'd like to see some formulation of the window fenestrations so that they're in the same family, let's put it that way, so that there's not hopper windows, casement windows, and double hung windows all in the same elevation. We'd like to see a little bit more information about exactly how the front staircase railing is going to be detailed. On the west elevation, the same comments would apply that we talked about on the east elevation. And similarly on the north elevation. There is some concern about the odd-shaped windows on both the west and north elevations at the second floor. And we'd like some further information on how the roof elements that require venting, how they're going to be venting, how they're going to be vented. The current single roof vent on the north elevation needs further study. It may require additional vents, and that we're not in favor of the current configuration of the skylight that appears to be over the second floor closet area. So we'd like a little further study on the placement of the skylight on the roof, as well as the other skylights. We want some understanding of how they integrate into the standing seam roof. We need to see what this is really going to look like, and that I don't think this drawing really reflects that. Because if you really detail this thing out, you're not going to see it like that. You're going to these standing seams go up. There is a flashing detail that occurs, et cetera. So those are the kinds of things that we're going to want to see at some point in this review process. And we'll also want some clear understanding where gutters and downspouts are located. I think I see some here, but they're not identified. That's the motion.
Do you have a second?
But they are on there.
Second? Lisa seconds? Under discussion, did you want to say something, sir?
I guess I would benefit with guidance regarding the triangular window near the top.
Right.
If I hear you correctly, a rectangular shape that's more consistent with the shapes of the other windows. You alluded to a 1980s style.
I think that might be an approach. There's other ways to achieve what you're trying to achieve there. I just don't think that's the solution yet. So I think there's other examples I could even point to in some of those homes that you already photographed that would get you where you need to be.
And the last question I had was was it the awning windows, the windows on
The hopper window.
Hopper windows.
Hopper windows.
Yeah.
Could you guide us as to what style would be more consistent?
Well, I think it's not in my mind, it's not the issue of whether it's a hopper window or a casement, whatever. It's just that when you have a look, you've put casements in, then you have double hungs, and then you have hopper windows. Okay, and they're kind of all over the place. So I think what's really important is for you to decide on a window style. So in other words, where you do have windows that need to be opened, maybe they all should be casements, or maybe they should all be hoppers, or maybe they should all be double hung, so that they're not all over the place. So, whatever one works for you in your home the best. And the thing to think about is when you want to ventilate your house, heat rises, so where do you need to have those windows open? Sometimes people will say, look, I want my hoppers on the bottom, and I use a hopper because I have a distance and a height problem in terms of being able to open that versus a casement, which is open wide like that. So I think you need to think about how you actually use those windows. And if you're going to go to the corner window system, maybe the windows look better tucked right up to the eave line. That's what I was talking about in terms of the proportions, in terms of what that house looks like. So those are the things I think you need to look at and kind of resolve. That's I think what's giving the board some uncomfortable view of this at the moment.
And that really determines, the overall look and style of the house. The windows are everything. They have everything to do with that. That's very important. Anyway, thanks for your patience with us. And now all in favor of that vote,
Wait,
say
just one thing
aye.
is to add to the motion that when they do come back, that they just bring us the colors.
Yeah.
Selected colors.
Yeah, go ahead and select your colors and then just bring them back.
Yeah.
So
It's
if
okay with
that's
the seconder.
acceptable to the seconder, that's the motion.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good.
Okay.
So I hope you have some direction and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I will now close the December 2nd, 2013 Single Family Design Board.
Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm blue. My disposition, it depends on you. I never mind the rain from sun in your eyes. Sometimes I love you, sometimes I hate you. But when I hate you, it's because I love you. That's how I am. So what can I do? I'm happy when I'm with you.